Hey Shapes, and welcome to another expedition of the Anime Encyclopedia. I'm an hour early. It's 5. It's less than 5. 4:58. I'm like, let's go. And then like no one's in chat. Completely fair. Totally fair. I'm just gonna go. We're gonna freaking rock it. Go. Hey, there it is. Okay, I'll just delete this. Ah. Alright. Alright. There we go. Yeah. Put it down on my end. It's Veal! Midnight stream, you spoiling me. I didn't really anticipate that Veal's been tuning in so late at night. So I guess this is a treat. It's good to see you, though. Always good to see you. Now reading. What indeed? So we've been doing the thematic entries, and they're going much slower than I was hoping. I thought I'd do 10 last time, and we did 5. Barely. But I think I'm going to have a little more tolerance, perhaps? Maybe. I doubt it. We'll see. We're just gonna keep going in order. Keep going. I am now reading. Let's see. Which one am I gonna read? Law and Order. I'm sorry. Law and Disorder. Got it. Hello from Czech viewer. Oh, good to see you, Mike. I'm not 100% sure of pronouncing your name, but it's great to see you. Yeah, usually 1 a.m. Fair. I got 5 protein bars for 5 entries. Should probably put it here too, just to it's not a big deal. I'm reading 1 out of 5. Law and Disorder. Okay. What are they? I haven't pulled it up yet. What do you guys think they'll talk about in this entry? I actually don't know. My instinct was like, oh, anime related to that, but no, I do think they're talking about like real crimes, like real bad shit. I'm not sure. It could go one way or the other. Hey Shapes, hello Craftsdorf, good to see you. Just about to get started on Law and Disorder. Okay. Japanese animation had been part of the ongoing discourse over media influences and harmful content since its first appearance. So a little bit of overlap from their censorship and localization section entry. The early anime were released shortly after the Tokyo Moving Pictures Entertainment Industry Control Regulations. Oh, it's the whole thing. 1917, which divided all films into those that were suitable for children and those that were not. Sounds like YouTube. Severely discouraging animators from pushing the available boundaries. Cartoons were included in the Film Recommendation System, 1921, as an area of potential growth, not just as children's entertainment, but for their use in education, documentaries, and history. The banning of the import of foreign films under the wartime film law created a huge vacuum in Japanese entertainment and permitted animators to flourish in unprecedented numbers on military and propaganda contracts, an increase in investment not seen again until the 1960s. Post-war purges, such as those that ruined the chances of The King's Tale, often employed legal smokescreens to settle entirely mundane scores and rivalries within the film industry as animators fought over the available work. Legal matters returned to the fore with the inauguration of television animation after Astro Boy, leading to several conflicts in localization, but also over the allegedly harmful content of children's cartoons. Maybe OV's created for laundering money. Yeah. That could be part of it. Hello? Good to see you, Annaliso. And hello, Victor. Protein bars. I thought after the last stream you'd have a bottle to take a shot every time they say something dumb. Nah, I don't drink. I drink Gatorade. Maybe I just do that. I should probably. But then I'd run out of it very quick. I have 2 Gatorades on my desk here, but finally catching one of your streams. Love your video shapes. Thank you, The Positiver. Thank you. I think I always do recognize you from your Youngling profile. It's very distinctive. And hello, Greg. Good to see everyone. The debate, as ever, centered on imitable violence. Imitative behavior. Yeah. I only really know about this from the Common Writer situation. He wouldn't make it past 3 pages. I mean, we're doing okay so far. The famous last words. It was deemed unlikely that parents needed to worry about invading aliens with laser guns. Yeah, this is a lot of overlap from their censorship localization thing. But the more prosaic misbehaviors to be found in shows such as Osamatsu-kun and Shame on Miss Machiko, which any viewer might conceivably be able to reenact with everyday items. What in particular? I can totally know what they're talking about with Miss Machiko, because like the big thing in that show, and it's like literally in the OP and in the promotional material, is like the kid flipping his teacher's skirt. And like the whole show is centered around sexualizing the teacher, the female teacher. 96 episodes of that. Full episodes of that. I think they were full. I did the chapters for them for Discotex release. God. The hardest drink I consume is overbrewed tea. It's iconic. You mean the kid jumping to his death imitating Gecko Kamen? Yeah, okay, Gecko Kamen. Gotcha. Yeah, the kid, it was like a kid jumping to his death type of deal. Yeah. And that's why they had to do a lot of like cutaway cameras and stuff. And they don't necessarily do that sort of thing with Toku. Similar PTA complaints have hounded such edgy shows as Crayon Shin-chan, usually in that liminal area where children might be expected to be able to access racier material aimed at adults. Usually in the liminal area where children might be expected to be able to access racier material aimed at adults. Yeah, I suppose so. Although that's another, like, I can understand maybe them being concerned about imitable behavior with the way Shin-chan acts. Yeah, very inappropriately. It has some good dick jokes. Yeah, I agree. It's pretty funny. And like they tone. I've not followed the whole show, right? Obviously not. I've only seen the first 10 movies, but you can tell even in the first 10 movies, like in that span, that they drastically reduced the that humor. You know, it's way more prominent in the first couple of films, like all the dick jokes, and there really aren't that many in the way of like toilet humor exactly. Like, yeah, there's some constipation and like, that sort of like those kinds of jokes, I guess. But that's way less putrid than what I was expecting, to be honest with you. when I hear poop jokes, it's like, you know, but I don't know. It's not as gross, really, especially when you get to like Hara's, Keiichi Hara's era, like 2000, yeah, like 2000 to 2003, around there. Crass and vulgarity, such a shame. I can understand it, but it's like, you do better, parents. Like, raise your kid. Don't just like find something else to blame, right? And like ruin it for everyone else, because that's the shit that like ruined comics. You know, the comics code. It was the same argument of like, video games are rotting kids' brains. Back then, it was comic books are rotting kids' brains. Television is rotting kids' brains. Rap music is rotting kids' brains. Everything. And and then like now it's TikTok, and that one does actually have a little bit of merit. Which but like TikTok, not inherently, but like the algorithm, like the actual, the content itself, no. But like the platform, the form, the way that it's used, yeah, there's some study. there's some shit. The issue rarely troubles the video sector in Japan, where it is widely understood and accepted that adult videos are for adults. Although there are rare occasional scares in other countries where erotica and pornography such as Bible Black and Adventure Kid are mistaken for children's entertainment. Legal matters also affect anime's reception and heritage among its audience, from spats over intellectual property, like Candy Candy, to allegations of copyright crimes, like in Death Note, and hate campaigns by vengeful fans in Kuroko's Basketball, all of which they do talk about in those entries. The Haze Code sure did lead eventually to the Dark Age. Yeah. The most notorious cases within Japan were those of the serial killer pedophile Tsutomu Miyazaki in the late 1980s, publicly derided as an otaku, and members of the Om Shinriko death cult, masterminds of the 1995 sarin gas attacks on the Tokyo subway, and embarrassingly vocal fans of Nazca of the Valley of the Wind. Such lunatic fringes, however, are not unique to Japan. San Diego's Heaven's Gate religious cult was supposedly found to be in possession of a stack of VHS tapes of Evangelion at the time of its mass suicide in 1997. Interesting fact, I guess. But like that reminds me of like the Osama bin Laden rumor. I don't really know how true it was, but like when they raided his computer, it was just a bunch of like emulations and ROMs of like Pokemon. Or not like Pokemon specifically maybe, but like it just had a bunch of torrented and emulated video games and shit on it. But like, is that indicative of its whatever? Like when they're saying that, it makes it feel like they're like, oh, I don't know. Miyazaki mentioned. No, it would have been. I would have actually clowned on him. I would have actually pointed and laughed and like bowled over if they like put in parentheses after that, no relation to Hayao Miyazaki, to like save face almost. Like that would have been embarrassing. That would have been like, oh my god, they are on the dick so hard. So far in. Most of Miyazaki's VHS collection was sport broadcast recording. I think it was just his kid torrenting. It stirred enough for the political momentum. Yeah. In years to come, particularly as Japanese corporations fight for a share of the lucrative Chinese market, business law may come to the fore, as companies wheel and deal to ensure that a production is somehow 51% Chinese owned and hence not subject to import quotas in the People's Republic. I can't believe sports made people violent. They did ban dodgeball for exactly what you're talking about. In like scouting, they don't allow us to play dodgeball. Instead, the alternative is Gaga Ball, which I can make a pretty substantive argument is worse and potentially more damaging than dodgeball. Like, just as many, if not more, kids get injured playing Gaga Ball, but it's way more addictive as a sport, just by the nature of its. I'm not gonna go into it. It's a whole thing, but like having experience, you know, with not me personally playing it, not just me personally playing it, but like youth playing these sports, dodgeball versus Gaga Ball. Gaga Ball is way more corrosive, in my opinion. Yet here we are. I can remember how in different DVD shops anime used to be stored right next to pornos. Just the perfect competitor to take over. In terms of subject matter, anime for children often places emphasis on law and discipline, either through enforcement by parental figures or as the object of cathartic defiance by naughty protagonists, beginning with the notorious Playful Boys Air Gun in 1917, the first anime to be banned. American football is presumably more dangerous than either? I mean, yeah. but we're not necessarily like it depends on the kind of football you're using, because there's tackle football, but then there's flag football, which there's no tackling. But like, conventional football of tackling and what we see on TV and everything, like that is requiring heavy equipment and protection, like physical armor basically, and it's still harmful. To an extent, of course, all within reason, but no different from boxing, right? In my opinion. Yasuji Murata's Taro's Steam Train from 1929 showed its protagonist desperately and largely unsuccessfully attempting to keep control of an unruly group of passengers, allegorizing an adult's plight by putting a child in a parent's position for comedic effect. Many children's anime protagonists exist in a dream world without parents, adopting an orphan status that may initially be played as tragedy, but can also be exploited as an excuse for an unsupervised existence. Many enjoy an officially free orphan status, but with parental figures somewhere close at hand, such as the numerous professor mentors in anime from Astro Boy to Detective Conan. The mysterious stranger who offers help in Candy Candy, the latchkey children whose parents work long hours away from home, even in a different city, or the impossibly accommodating bases to be found in every Pokemon town, where children are welcomed, fed, and cared for, and then sent back out into the world to have more fun. That's interesting. I think it's obscuring the fact that a bunch of the more often than I can remember, more often than not, the case for Pokemon is that they are setting up camp and cooking themselves, which I think is a far more contrarian, is far more depicting a sense of independence and autonomy and freedom. And yes, freedom. But they're making this out to be this utopia, which yeah, Pokemon certainly is a fantastical place where the Pokemon don't necessarily not a ton of Pokemon are out to kill you, and not as much in the way the most crime you get is stealing the person's Pokemon. There's no murder, okay, but we're not focusing on that. You know what I mean? It's a story doesn't have to be substantive or worth telling because it has murder in it. Just because Pokemon is sort of utopian in the sense that it doesn't have these serious things or whatever, or it's kind of a suspension of disbelief type of thing, doesn't mean it can't then have conflict, which it does every episode. Pretty perfectly fair conflict, even though it's it's a story, it's made up, I'm not tense or anything. You know what I mean? It's just not a great way to look at media in general. I just find this a very cynical reading of Pokemon, to be honest with you. I understand where they're coming from, but it's kind of missing the forest for the trees. Conan has parents, and Ran's parents are divorced. Yeah, in the anime they cook themselves. Also keep in mind that the US has such a rigid corralling of kids than Japan, which is open to let kids walk around in the neighborhood. And pay for food in the centers. The fact that they never discuss cooking Pokemon truly shows that the franchise has no spine. Yeah. Right. Killing characters doesn't make a good story. Unrelated picture of Gendo Gucci. Oh yeah, completely unrelated. Hey, I think it was cool. On the flip, I'm not trying to be your story might have some flaw to it if it kills its characters unnecessarily. Maybe there's something. I think he creates interesting tension that way. Sure. But see, the thing with death And I don't quite know if Madoka necessarily falls into this trap. It might. It might. I don't have as much. I've seen the original series, but I haven't rewatched it or seen any of the supplementary material, whatever. But what that reminds me of is Hokuto no Ken, where they're pretty okay with killing off characters, a lot of them, and I think that's good for tension for most of them. Like I never really feel tension for Kenshiro. I kind of assume he's always gonna win. He's always gonna be the most powerful person, but that's okay because I end up really attaching myself to characters that aren't immortal, that aren't Kenshiro, and they do die, and it's sad, and it sucks. But what I'm trying to get to is that the disadvantage that Hokuto no Ken finds itself in is that eventually it kind of kills every character that was remotely interesting, and you're left with the characters that are still okay. I like Kenshiro, I like Bat, I like Lin. But that's kind of it. And it's like, where is everyone? You kind of killed everyone that was interesting. You kind of and that's what I like about One Piece, really. I'm okay with him bringing some characters back if it means more interactions or further intrigue into those characters, potentially. The fact that he didn't kill Crocodile back in Alabasta means that he can release him and Impel Down later, right? Buggy, the same thing. Or, recurring villains, right? I don't know. Obviously, One Piece still has its problems with killing characters and then they're not dead, and like, you definitely should have been, and there's no reason, or he's not going to bring this character back up. Why do they have to live? Type of deal. Sure. And if anything, surprisingly, the One Piece live action actually went through with one of those deaths. They actually kill one of the characters that kind of gets one of these fake out deaths almost. Like, he seems like, oh, he probably should have died from there, and then he didn't. That wasn't as egregious as I think some later characters. But that was an instance where it's like, oh, they actually killed him. You know what I mean? That was interesting. All right, basically all the way over here. That's the part of the reason I just like Madoka TV. On the flip side, I'm pretty mad that the fandom treating Magica Record so poorly, since girls do die as a theme of slight self-sacrifice. They kill a lot of the major characters in Ken, and it makes them memorable. Oh, sure, it certainly does, but like, you lose the, I don't think it has as much longevity if you do that. You then have to create more characters that are interesting, and maybe you kind of run into the risk at that point being like, you're a lot like this other character. But still. This condition in anime has not always been used without comment. Hippo and Thomas allegorized the parent-child relationship as that of a kindly indulgent giant and a constantly scheming, ungrateful freeloader, much to the amusement of any parents who found the time to look in. Good. I like that they gave a contrast. I was like, this is a good... Yeah, I like that. Not all anime... also don't know really why they're talking about this in Law and Disorder, to be honest with you. Not all anime iconoclasm is as obvious as that found in the bratty behavior of Crayon Shin-chan. Bad guys in cartoons the world over are often given dialogue with a vocabulary at least a couple of years older than that of the target audience, thereby giving the subliminal impression of a bullying elder sibling or evil parent. Why are they talking about this in Law and Disorder? It's an interesting angle, but like, where's this going? However, in anime made specifically for children, it would be, I guess that's sort of why, is because they're really, the Law and Order, they're really concentrating on the imitable behavior part, which is a continuation of their kids' anime article, which is, whatever. However, in anime made specifically for children, it would be counterproductive for producers to sanction bad behavior without retribution. Consequently, many anime protagonists are heroes working to enforce a greater good. Employees or heirs of an individual or organization dedicated to the defeat of evil. Yeah. I still don't really know where they're going with that. Like, that's kind of I guess self-obvious is the word Self-evident. That's the word. Self-evident. Such trends have led to many crime-related serials. Okay, so they are talking about crime-related serials, in which protagonists hunt down evildoers or solve crimes by means of deduction. The Naughty Detectives from 1968 may not have appeared in anime until relatively late into the 20th century, but drew on a tradition of crime-solving kids dating back to the earliest 20th century works of Rampo Edogawa. The works of Arthur Conan Doyle have been influential on anime crime fighters as those of his contemporary Jules Verne were on science fiction. We not only have the adventures of Sherlock Hound, but also the Doyle-inspired Conan the Boy Detective. Note, however, that the Casebook of Sherlock Holmes, in its original Japanese form, was far less closely related to the works of Doyle than its English title implies. Okay, now I'm interested, like, they're just gonna kind of rattle off a bunch of mystery-related serials, I guess. Okay. We'll see if they mention a particular one I have in mind. I'm thinking Master Keaton. I'm interested in want to see if they mention it. The murder mystery of the week is a classic formula. Yeah, and like, it's also been adopted in other things like Blackjack. I feel like Blackjack is very similar kind of, like if you like Kindaichi or Master Keaton or Detective Conan, I think you would like Blackjack. You know what I mean? But maybe I don't know if they mention it. Japan's own detective tradition, the Torimonoucho, entertained readers with tales of samurai-era detectives like those found in 808 districts. Some of these, such as the undercover authority figures of Manga Mito Koman and Samurai Gold, were remade for the anime audience in a fantasy or science fiction format. 3 of the most famous were controversially remodeled for an anime audience without the consent of the original creators' estates. A descendant of the super-efficient Heiji Zenigata was cast as a dogged, incompetent detective in the long-running Lupin III. I would not call Zenigata incompetent, by the way. Bumbling, dogged, yes. My man is not incompetent. Come on now. Come on. Whose title, like, no, like, he just isn't. Am I right? Am I wrong? Like, Zenigata being incompetent? No. No, he's not incompetent. I'm not trying to be a stan or anything. I really can't think of an instance where he was just, like, a stupid goofball, like a clueless idiot. Like, there's certainly depictions of him doing that, but, like, through no fault of his own. Like, he's trying to fucking, like, get to the bottom of something, and he, like, shit just gets in his way, and like, they're so far past him that he doesn't even have a fucking chance. And, like, that's not his incompetence. That's just them, like, wheeling over him. What's going on, Bob? Zenigata is goofy. Yeah, goofy is fine. I agree, goofy. In some instances. Not all of them. But, like, incompetent? Come on. The former attributes imply the latter. Dogged? All they say is a dogged, incompetent detective. Come on. Lupin's always several steps ahead of him. Yes, and that's on Lupin. That's not out of his incompetence, like, being a dumb idiot. You know what I mean? That's just Lupin being smarter. If he were incompetent, then their rivalry would be meaningless. Yeah, I agree. No, absolutely. It wouldn't make any... It would be useless. It would be really frugal. And that's the thing. I mean, I'm watching fucking John and Saint Tail. And... okay, look. Asuka Jr. in Saint Tail... He's not incompetent, but he's fairly oblivious. Yeah, like, he does have a bit of incompetency to him to the extent of, like, how the hell do you not realize that this girl is Saint Tail? Because it's really funny as the show goes on, just how much evidence and, like, close calls that she gets. The thing is, right, the whole, like, from episode 1, she's like, I can't let him see my face, otherwise he'll know it's me. Even though it's like, he could probably make the deduction based on the hair, you know? But even then, there's been moments where she's told him he's Saint Tail, or he sees her face in, like, a mirror or some other thing, and he's like, oh my god, that's Mamie, that's the girl. well, that's weird. Why would the mirror show me something wrong? And then, like, that was his, like, are you dense? He's dense. That's the thing. But incompetent, like, that's hard. That just means, like, making a dumb choice, you know? And, like, in his ego or something. But, like, I don't know. I don't know if I classify that. And then the, officers, the team of officers in Jean are not incompetent necessarily. I mean, I haven't really noticed that. I think the real thing is that John's too good. You know, that's the thing. That's what makes it interesting. They really do try, you know? It isn't like this stupid thing is going to work. Like, of course it's not going to work. They don't do stupid shit. You know, they actually do try. I've only seen one piece of Lupin Media. The one movie from like 2006 with the dog. The one, Hey, It's Corinth, absolutely hated. I thought it was all right. Oh, okay. Fair enough. With the dog, 2006? Which Lupin is that? I might have hated it too. Or I might have thought it was Mid-Pon, basically. Let's see. Oh, let me just do Lupin. I'm looking through my list. 2006? I have seen a lot of Lupin. Okay, what Lupin came out in 2006? And did it have a dog? Oh. Oh, yeah. 7 Days Rhapsody? I don't even remember about it having a dog, I guess. Yeah, pretty boring. It's the classic Clark Kent's super. Yeah. This one's worse. this Saint Tail's pretty funny in that regard, but it's cute. It works. It's not a complaint. It's just a quality of it that like you kind of have to understand. Oh, Last Job. Yeah, that one was also. Oh yeah, the dog, right? Because I used that in my video with the dog pissing in Lupin's face. Yeah, Last Job sucks. Yeah. It's not one of the worst Lupin for me, because at least that one had kind of like a lot of the decent twists and action, but it was really mid-pon. It was just like, ugh. I can understand why they think he's incompetent, but only because I've heard so many of their other bad takes. Right. Dense male lead in a shoujo romance, A Tale as Old as Time. Yeah. And then her being mad at it, it's just so cute. Like, it works. What can I do? What can I say? It works. I've been watching part 2 with friends. Nice. Has the shoujo been shifting on that recently? I haven't been paying much attention. I don't fucking know. Felt more bad boy from a couple experience. Yeah. And bad boy's another angle. John has the bad boy angle. John has the bad boy angle pretty bad. And it's interesting. It's not my favorite. I much prefer the more cutesy, chaste romance. Because I'm a baby boy. But it's certainly compelling. Certainly interesting. I can definitely see it going like way too far. Like, no, that's totally unbelievable. You should restrain yourself from him. Why are you talking? Why are you letting him talk to you? Get away from him. He's a fucking creep. I can see that getting kind of out of hand in other titles. I don't think that's been the case with John, though. Last Bot Job and Goodbye Partner. I only know via soundtracks, and that's all I need to know because they're some of the best in the series. That's fair. Lupin gets pissed in the face. Who is the incompetent now? Right. Anyway, I've spent so long in this incompetent line. God. It's mostly because I love talking to chat and just talking in general. Okay. Whose title of character was descended from the famous fictional French thief Arsène Lupin, while the grandson of Kosuke Kindaichi would chase criminals in the young Kindaichi files. Anime detective dramas and cop shows often search for a gimmick designed to separate them from the mainstream, although with the occasional rare exception of one-shots like Domain of Murder, there is no crime mainstream within the anime medium itself. Anime is instead completely competing directly with live action. Consequently, crime anime will search in much the same way as erotica and pornography for areas within the live-action genre that can be more easily served by animation. Science fiction's perhaps the most obvious, with the Night Sabers in Bubblegum Crisis and AD Police. Although anime also offers crime fighters, such as the cast of Sailor Moon. Crime. I am committing crimes. I guess the monsters in Sailor Moon commit crimes, but it's really weird and hard to say that. I don't know, to think of it like that, I guess. Because there's no police presence, like, ever. I can't even think of a moment where, like, the police were there or were called, or, like, there's nothing we can do, and it's up to the Bishoujo Senshi to take care of it. No, not really. I don't know. That's a strange. It'd be like saying, like, most of the. I would definitely, my roommates. I'm sorry, going on a tangent. My roommates and I started a very early Heisei writer series. We chose between Agito, Faiz, and Ryuki, and we were kind of expecting Faiz to be the winner, but we really gravitated to Agito. But all three of them, actually. What was interesting was that they had way more, compared to the Reiwa ones we had been watching, like Geats or Revice, they were way more leaning towards horror and mystery. Even with, a severe police presence in Agito, and not so much in Faiz, but certainly a mystery aspect to it, I could kind of tell. And it wasn't necessarily, law enforcement, but journalism in the case of Ryuki. There's a bit of a mystery which, they have encounters with the police, but they're like, oh, they're not really solving the crime, they're not getting it or something. It's interesting. I thought the movie was from 2006 because the animation being so dated. Yeah, well, it's a TV special, so they're not necessarily, not movie quality. In pretty petty Sentai crime ways. Kid Buu was a criminal. Yeah, I guess so. Huh. And comparing crime anime to Sailor Moon reminds me of that one Sailor Moon moment, the one where the cop just goes, "Hey!" I don't even remember that. I don't know if I've gotten to that moment yet. I'm almost done with R. I need to finish it. It's got like 8 episodes left. Yeah, I miss when monsters were monsters. Vice doesn't have much of any police, if I recall. Okay. There was a corrupt cop in Ryuki, old Crab-kun. Shows like Sukeban Deka flirt with the erotic potential of bad girls, in which a fallen heroine is often the chance of redemption through working for the police. Cyber City Oedo plays the same redemptive game without the gender-loaded subtext. I think way more than that. You're not gonna mention that, like, they're criminals that, like, have explosive collars on them, and it's, like, sci-fi? I guess they can kind of tell when they say Cyber City, but still. Bit of a wide stretch to be like Sukeban Deka, Cyber City Oedo. A little wide. Drive is the season features a copywriter. Yeah. Oh yeah, I've seen Drive. That's one of the few I've seen. I've seen. The order was Gaim, 01, Build, Forze, Revice, Geats, Revice Drive Geats, and now we're doing Agito. We also checked out the first episode of Gotchard, and we're like, yeah, I'm good. And I was like, that's okay. I'm okay. Like, I get it's the writer of Gridman, etc., but I'm sure it'll get more interesting later, but it wasn't. The characters weren't doing it for me. The characters did not seem all that striking or compelling. Kabuto. Usually depends on if the superhero is a vigilante or part of a government organized shock trooper type. You're Under Arrest had little new to offer except a self-conscious cuteness, perhaps explaining why it was so easily adapted for live action. I haven't even seen You're Under Arrest, and I think that's pretty unique. What other titles are like You're Under Arrest? I mean, like, I guess Patlabor, but those are not the same thing. Exactly my reaction to Gotchard. Yeah. It's okay. I'm good. Gotchard too kid-friendly, huh? Same feeling for me. I wouldn't even say that. Because I know people are using that as a cudgel for like, oh, but they're all for kids! Like, yeah, sure. But then you go back to fucking Agito. Like, we watched Agito immediately after Gotchard, and it was so striking how serious they took everything. And like actual characterization and mystery and intrigue to the characters. And a sense of tension and atmosphere. You know, like it just Gotchard didn't have that. It had a funny train. It had a funny train. It's kind of funny. But like, seriously not a good impression to do your first henshin and it's a CG grasshopper. Like, I get it. Feature your heavy CG early on in the series. That make fine. Every season does that. I can understand that. But like, there's ways to do that without it being like, you know? I thought Revice's way of doing it was kind of fun, kind of innovative and cute, interesting. Geats was like completely seamless. Like I thought it was like totally made sense. I wasn't bothered by a lot of other stuff, but then like it's just a weird choice. It'd be like, you want your first impression of your writer suit to be the writer suit. Like, here it comes, and it's him being this like awkward grasshopper that does shit and like almost dies. And he's like, oh. It's not even a matter of that being like kiddie or not. I love fucking Digimon. So like, you know, or Pokemon, right? So like him having this like hopper thing, hoppa, like that's cute. I dig that. I'm down for a show with that. I don't think that's too kiddie. But the MC's boring. The MC is like, I don't know. The MC is not doing it for me. What exactly is a Geat? Common Rider Geats is the name of it. And to be perfectly honest, it's just kind of, it's like every other Common Rider name. Revice, Zero 1 actually does have some relevance. I think Gaim technically has some relevance. But like a lot of them, that's just the name. They don't have any, we don't know what a Geats is or what a Revice is. It's just gonna evoke, it's supposed to just evoke a feeling. At least that's how I take it as. I can't remember what Sentai got an entire rating board hate that pushed back most of the tones. Oh yeah. Cat Ranger has cops as main characters. Yep. A Kitsune. I guess so. Okay. Bit of a stretch. Rarer explorations within the detective genre include Fake, which replays the cliches of the detective drama with a homosexual cast. Yeah. Anime criminals have also functioned, and that wasn't a repulse. I hope that doesn't come off as me being repulsed or something. I'm just like, yep, that's the thing. Okay. I'm not at all. Like, I don't know why I'm self-conscious about that. You know, it was, I always get a little PTSD thinking about the way I talked about Yuri and Yaoi in my How to Anime video, where I'm just like, male and female homosexual relationships. Anyway, I just didn't want to talk about it. It made me, it was like squeamish or something. I am a little squeamish about it because I know it's not my experience. It's the same with like, you know, talking about different races or something, you know? It's really not my place. I'm gonna watch it, but if I don't find at least 5 Geats, I'm getting my money back. Oh. Gonna spend money on it? Wow. You can do that? Anime criminals have also functioned as protagonists rather than antagonists ever since the adventures of Pride the Master Thief in 1965. Lupin the Third remains the most famous thief. Like, hit the pillow. Like, yeah. I would have expected these thematic entries to be a little more analytical. Instead, they're just like, yeah, Lupin's a thief. Look. Like, oh man. Such retains that, and many of his fellow burglars, such as the heroines of Cat's Eye or Saint Tail. I really guess they don't know about Kaito John, but alright. Turned to crime only in the service of a higher and ultimately noble purpose, such as stealing back something that is rightfully theirs. Yeah. With the coming of the video age, such thieves with hearts of gold began to share the lineup with far more unusual suspects, as stories for mature audiences chose to focus on or even valorize other forms of criminal. Critics of the early video era characterized a subgenre of bikemono, bikemono, I think it's just baikumono, biker stories, such as Bomber Bikers of Shonen, in which gang life among boy racers often drifted over to the wrong side of the law. Yeah, I can at least speak to Shonen because I just finished watching it. There is assault and speeding, you know, but I wouldn't necessarily call it organized crime, you know, like we're not gonna like go out and steal shit or purposely commit any heinous acts. A lot of it was like in the case of the assault charge, it was kind of turned out to be a self-defense thing. Like the main characters are not necessarily going out to beat people up, but they get into arguments and they turn into fights, you know. Then I'll make a YouTube rant vid, Where Are the Geets? Yeah. Shaves convention. Does it even draw the live action mention like how Cutie Honeybee inspired by Seven Disguise? I don't know. Did I miss anything? No, we're still on Law and Disorder. This is the only article we've been talking about. They did mention Saint Tail once. They're just like, oh, it's like Cat's Eye and Saint's Tail where they're nice sometimes. In which gang life among boy racers often drifted over to the wrong side of the law. Organized crime also appeared in anime such as the Abarashi Family or the Quiet Dawn, while a subset of criminal dramas romanticized the life of the assassin, characters such as Ichi the Killer and Gogol 13 making killing their business, while the likes of Phantom of Inferno and Noir tried to have their cake and eat it too, by traveling the world killing people and then feeling very bad about it. Hey! What's wrong with that? What the hell? What kind of talk? What does that mean? Very bad about it. They put very bad, like, they put very and then bad in italics. Very bad about it. Like, what the heck? Belts are pretty pricey. Yeah. That's why I don't get one. Okay. Japanese live-action police dramas are reluctant to deal with the issue of a cop in... Wait a minute. I wonder if they're even going to talk about... like, this is the thing. It's like the weird thing about... There it is. They do mention Pat Labor. But like the listing of this sort of stuff... No, they don't mention Master Keaton. I just kind of finished skimming and I don't think I've seen it. You know, like just resting your entire article about name-dropping a bunch of stuff... All it does for at least the fan like myself is just like, what about this title? What about that title? You know? And like they weren't necessarily, you don't need to be thorough if you're just going to make an analysis. But if you're just going to be like, it has this other thing, like this or this. It's just like, yeah, but what about this other title? Or something. I don't know. Me feels bad about killing people. Now I'm reminded by a recent vid I saw on Sympathetic Strawman and how the MCU made a guy who killed a terrorist as a bad guy and failed. Japanese live-action police dramas are reluctant to deal with the issues of a cop on the edge or the wrong side of the law. The hard-bitten, borderline criminal cop of The Shield, all too often mutilating in Japan into the sanitized rule benders of live-action serials like Unfair from 2006. However, while the Japanese mainstream generally insists that its cops are good-hearted, anime can push the envelope in new directions, either with science-fictional satire of bad policing like Dominion or Angel Cop, or by pinning all the blame on foreigners, as with Mad Bull 34. The parental emphasis on science fiction in anime often puts it several years ahead of live-action cop shows in its treatment of new crimes. Hacking, identity theft, and computer viruses are old news in the anime world, and continue to be innovatively explored in Ghost in the Shell and its spin-offs. Parentheses, see also Psychopaths and The Top Secret for more recent iterations. Perhaps the best crime show in anime, however, remains Patlabor. I was about to like, where's Patlabor? Whose robotic supporting cast represents an excellent use of the animated medium over its live-action competitors, while its TV running time permitted long story arcs in which petty infractions gradually escalate into major felonies, and eventually massive governmental conspiracies. For those who want a more traditional sleuthing, there is always Hercule Poirot and Miss Marple, continuing the long tradition in Japanese television of detectives hunting down the truth to make us all feel safer. Okay. Yeah. It did kind of actually do both that I was expecting. It was both coverage of Law and Order related anime, but also like the relationship of the actual real life law to anime productions and how they've affected them in various ways. But like they kind of do both in like a very lax, whatever kind of way, in my opinion. I don't know. Could have been better. Yeah, that's what I want, but it's too low. Maybe if I do this. Woo! Woo! That's a normal spell, sorry. Okay. I remember people reading this encyclopedia probably don't know any of the series they're mentioning anyway. Yeah, I think that's the point. That's the reason they're doing it like this. But that's a matter of who the readership is. How many people are reading these thematic entries that are like complete newcomers to anime? And sure, there's certain titles that I hadn't heard. I don't know too much about, like the Quiet Dawn or Bashiri family, but there isn't much substantive, in those titles. But then they go all into like with Patlabor, which is way more popular. At least I don't see a problem with the titles they mentioned so far. There was never a problem. It was always just how they framed certain things, and just the general like listing of the approach is what's like leaves things to be desired, in my opinion. It doesn't feel as substantive as some of their previous articles, I guess. Not nearly enough commentary on Japanese high conviction rate, masking more how corrupt the system is to keep up a public front, less analytical than Ace Attorney. Okay, that was the first one. Number 2, but before we move on to music in anime, I'm gonna eat this bar. These bars! And probably walk around because my back's kind of killing me. I've been sitting all day. I'm gonna be here. I'll see the chat and be out, but I'll have the screen here right back. Okay. I've changed to a standing desk. Also relating to criminals, there are several anime which vigilante chases criminals, so there's a lot they could add. Yeah. Judge Dredd protein bar. Can you give us an analysis of it when you finish eating? What's the review? Oh, of this. Well, I have literally been buying these Nature Valley protein peanut butter dark chocolate chewy bars ever since I moved in 2020. We live nearby to a BJ's, so I've been getting them in bulk, 26 bars per box. The real key that you're buying them for is the 10 grams of protein. The ones that say protein specifically on it. There's a different kind where instead of a chocolate bottom, it's a peanut butter bottom. And that might sound tasty because of a nice alternative, but that one does not have protein on it. And the reason I'm having these is the protein. It's a selling point. It says 10 grams of protein right there, actually. I didn't even look at the nutrition facts. And, yeah, they've been a pretty major staple for me for a long time now. They're very affordable. I get a lot of them, and they're filling. And yeah, they have the pieciness of them with with peanuts and everything. But you know, I just take what I can get because it's unfortunate to be able to have peanuts when a lot of folks can't. I'd say that's my review. Okay. Is it your all-time? What's the protein bar 3x3? I have no frame of reference. I don't have other ones to really put that with. I like Cliff, but I don't buy them that often. It's really just been these. Because they've been affordable in what I get at BJ's, you know? Eat raw protein powder instead. Good to see you beyond eternity, and I don't know. Perhaps. Just buy the spoonful, don't even put anything in it, just ingest more legumes. Okay, music in anime. I didn't necessarily respond to that because I don't know what legumes are. But you feel free to tell me. New fan I see. No, not of this bar. It's simply an exposure. It's like, you know, being an anime fan and just watching the seasonals. Like that. Or being a fan of just one. That's actually more accurate. It's like, yeah, I'm an anime fan. My favorite is this one show, and that's all I've watched. Or just meal prep. Oh, yeah. That's what I literally... Yeah, it's part of my meal. You gotta work out to make that protein count. I do. I do work out. Twice a week. My roommate's a personal trainer. We have our equipment in our garage. I like Nature Valley granola, but my bad teeth care is catching me up to me. That's fair. Oh! Peanuts are legumes. Actually. Read Brandon Sanderson books. They are basically anime. Fair enough. But when you say book, I'm just like, I'm a visual guy. I like my visuals and my voice acting. More than me. Music and anime. I've been procrastinating long enough. I gotta find some way to not procrastinate as much. It's been 1 hour. We've done one article. Bad times. Prove it, show us your arm muscles. Look, everyone's different, okay? Everybody is different. But defined, it's there. Though peanuts don't have the complete amino acid to make a complete protein, gotta pair with chickpeas or carrots. Chia seeds, I mean, not chickpeas. Oh, I see. I'm a very picky eater, Bob. My food plan is at the moment, like, just get food into me. Sheesh. Yeah. From the early days of silent film, when theater owners paid a pianist to provide appropriate accompaniment, sound has heightened the impact of the image on screen. For many Japanese children since 1961, their first encounter with animation has been the sing-along tunes of Everybody's Songs, which has often incorporated animation into its episodes. I have now, when I just read that, I was like, oh, here we go again. They're like, from the, since time immemorial. Like, God, reading these back to back is a pain in my ass. So, I'm going to make the executive decision that we're going to do these 5 today. We're going to do these 5. But then these 10, we're finding a way to incorporate them into the rest of the fucking streams. We're doing, I don't know, 2 per stream. And then do more reading. Just anything. But just to break it up. Like, can't deal with this. I'm sure they're gonna fail to mention idols or disappear. We'll see. Will you still be a weeb when you're 70? Yeah, I hope so. These guys are weebs in their 70s, right? If they can make it in there, so the way they are, why can't I? Anime is supported by a phalanx of talented composers, many of whom work on live action or game soundtracks, and a few with distinguished careers outside the motion picture industry in classical, jazz, or other modern musical forms. The leader of the pack is Yoko Kanno. She's certainly the best one and very exciting, but like, can we not? Like, Grumpy Shape's on. Yeah. This is like that vid essay parody of History of the Muppets Chapter 1, The Industrial Revolution. Are you implying he's one now? You don't see Weeb as a disparagement? I know that it depends on what they're talking. Like, I could tell from them saying, "Are you gonna be a weeb when you're 70?" I'm not necessarily taking that as an insult. But like, if you're just a weeb, then I guess I'll take it as an insult. The way they're like, "You're skinny," I'm like, "You're skinny," right? It's all about the inclination, right? I saw a Yuri fan in his 50s when I was in junior college, so they last. Some do. Wow, just outing their favorites like that. Yoko Kanno more like Yoko Ono. Come on. Music and anime since humans learned to clap their hands in the stone. Yeah. Since humans learned to clap their hands in the Stone Age. Yuji Ono, right. Like, I don't know. Could there be other... I just want to see... I guess we'll keep reading. It's just like annoying that they're just going to start with Yoko Kanno, whose scores cover every musical angle from the jazz of Cowboy Bebop to the church-influenced chorals of Escaflowne. Joe Hisaishi, which has been Studio Ghibli's house composer since he scored 84's Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, started out as a minimalist. Loop on the third composer, Yuji Ono. Okay, third, I guess, is fine. It's like they're ranking them. It's like, first is Yoko Kanno leading the pack, then Joe Hisaishi, then Yuji Ono. It's like, why do we have to talk about them like it's a fucking competition? Seriously. Hope they mention Hayato Matsuo and Shinkichi Mitsumune. Which ones did they do? I'm not familiar with their work. We wouldn't have Yoko Kanno without rock scraping against other rocks once. Stop! Sheesh! It's also good to see you cry out against control. Yuji Ono is a leading purveyor of lounge jazz, and one of the main reasons why the series' reputation is as one of the coolest shows ever is still intact after more than 3 decades. I've made my peace about Yuji Ono, where it's like, just because you have his music doesn't mean you also know how to use it. Kohei Tanaka excels at martial themes and variations on Mozart, most notably in his score to Gunbuster and One Piece. Kenji Kawai's pulsing compositions have added extra menace to the scores of Ghost in the Shell and Patlabor, and Shiro Sagisu's multiple variations on both Beethoven and Burt Bacharach add a distinctive tone to Evangelion. Just Eva, not Bleach, not other things. It's really just those two. There's other stuff, but yeah. Why did you unlist all your Dazaki videos? I have this weird mental hang up where I don't want my channel to be bloated with, when I did like that series, right? 12 kind of similarly, like kind of identical thumbnails and similar titles, right? Maybe I would have gotten more views overall, although it didn't make much difference to me, I guess. The reason they're unlisted is because I just chose to have the one Dazaki video as the compilation. I liked combining all of them into one video. And that's what's public on the channel, and that's what I turn people towards. It was like the original uploaders. They're still available in a playlist on my channel, but that's why they're unlisted. It was just a hang up about my channels. When you look at the videos, like on the channel page, seeing them all, it would be like a row of 12, like a bunch of them in a row, and I didn't want to do that necessarily. I didn't want it to look like that. That's all. It's a pedantic choice, but that's why. Interesting they don't put Hisaishi on top. Yeah. Opinions, I guess. I didn't hear Yuki Kajiura unless I misheard. They have not mentioned Kajiura just yet. Matsuo did Ray Earth and Saint Tail. Oh, yeah. Matsumune did Fairy Sugar. Alright. Every time I put on an episode of New Bleach, I get sad because the remixed and muffled original OST lost a lot. Really? Oh. Well, I can understand to an extent because Shabu's talked about this, where an OST that was recorded at one point in time, like the 2000s, it has different recording requirements, and it's like something up to fire code. Like they need certain volume, and it sounds notably dated, like canned, if it was from a particular era. So they always have to kind of reorchestrate or recompose or remix, or just up to get them to the sound acceptability of modern sound systems or something. It was something like that he's talked about in places where he's talking about One Piece OST, where it's like the pieces in that, despite being used so much and working fine, at least in my opinion, it wasn't until like Whole Cake, etc., where they had to start implementing newer tracks and remixing old ones, reorchestrating some stuff. Karikano is Sagisu's best. Right, I forgot he did Karikano, of course. No Hirasawa either. Yeah, not yet. We'll see. BGM over OST, whatever. I kind of agree, but whatever. Composers from other musical areas also dip into anime. Some of Osamu Tezuka's works were scored by famous mainstream composers Isao Tomita and Kaoru Wada. Ryuichi Sakamoto, formerly of pop trio Yellow Magic Orchestra, and best known to motivate moviegoers for Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence and The Last Emperor, was one of the 3 composers for Wings of Honemiers, while his YMO colleague Haruomi Hosono scored The Tale of Genji. Some of these guests in the anime world are notable for their distinctively different voices, particularly Shoji Yamashiro, whose thumping South Asian-influenced score for Akira was later reclaimed by the composer as the middle sequence of a symphonic trilogy, beginning with Reincarnated Orchestra and ending with Cacophony Rinne. Foreign pop luminaries who have scored anime include Jean-Jacques Brunel of The Strangles, composer for the elegant and original Gankutsuo, and Glenn Danzig, whose music formed the basis of the obscure Satanica, while Western singers who have sung themes include David Sylvian. This is just a list. It's kind of boring. Include David Sylvian of the new romantic band Japan on Monster. Babylon 5 composer Christopher Frank provided the music for the first Tenchi Muyo movie. In imitation, are they going to mention Zito and Carbone for Project A-ko? Which was like one of the first? I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong, but that's like one of the first like American soundtracks, like, involvements with the music. In imitation of Japanese live-action drama, some modern opening and closing themes are deliberately designed as advertisements for music tie-ins, whereas American serials often reduce their opening themes to mere musical stings, like Will and Grace or Frasier, in order to lessen the temptation to switch channels. Anime capitalizes both on the ritual quality of viewing for younger audiences and on the fact that a recyclable opening sequence saves on animation budgets and is hence preferably extended for as long as possible. Not really. Like, they're all very uniformly, like, 90 seconds. Some of them are only 50 seconds or a minute or something. And the ones that are extended, like One Piece, is only because they made the decision to not have an ED. They just wanted to put all the credits at the beginning. And that's not saving on budget, that's just moving things around. Maybe it's a budgetary thing, but I doubt it. And also, I mean, they're not going to mention that, like, I'm almost positive that the first anime opening theme of Astro Boy was a suggestion by the US companies, right? If I'm not mistaken. But it's just so annoying and weird to, like, reduce them to be like, oh, you reduced the budget. Like, okay, yeah, sure. Ryuichi Sakamoto did music for Tezuka? That's crazy. I just meant soundtrack when I said OST. This really is the nerd databasing wanking. No, you're right. And it's like, and then all we're going to take away from it is like, oh, you didn't mention this guy, you didn't mention this guy, come on. When, like, you could have been giving a more, like, general, holistic analysis that isn't just rattling off a bunch of trivia. What about the Mushishi singer? Yeah. Gilbert or Sullivan for Maison Okoku could be an interesting one to bring up regards to Japanese reception of Western music. And also for copyright. Like Fly Me to the Moon being not safe. Casey Rankin. What did Rankin do? This has led to unexpected appearances by pop stars on the credit listings for anime, such as the use of a Franz Ferdinand track on Paradise Kiss, and now on Cyberpunk Edge Runners too. The surprise showing by the Backstreet Boys on Young Hanada, or the appearance of Radiohead's Paranoid Android on Ergo Proxy. Nice. Real-life performers also crop up in anime, including a cameo by the boy band Tokyo in Child's Toy, and a similar appearance by SMAP in Hime-chan's Ribbon. Anime scores are complemented by so-called image albums. CDs with music inspired by popular titles abound in Japan. Sometimes the music is composed after the event to cash in on a strong market. Sometimes it includes material that didn't make it into the show's final cut, or additional songs by which popular singer or composer is working on the rest of the project. Occasionally, a composer and director will build up a special relationship. Johi Saishi works closely with Hayao Miyazaki for the early stages of a new project, providing sketches of possible themes which the director also uses for inspiration and which are amended and expanded as the movie grows. With a number of shows getting their own spin-off CD and radio dramas, each needing some kind of soundtrack, there's a whole other strand of releases, both with and without the accompanying dialogue. The music attached to anime in its native land don't necessarily travel overseas. Foreign releases quite often get their own theme songs or even soundtracks, whether they be the borrowed 1980s pop on Macron 1, the US release of Ghost Shogun, or songstress Chantal Goya, who provided the French theme for Monarch, the Big Bear of Talak. Claude Lombard sang themes for over 40 animated shows in France, from Queen of a Thousand Years to Star of the Seine, to American cartoons like The Adventures of Teddy Ruxpin. Italy has its own anime theme stars, the Micronauts of Daiton 3, Cristina D'Avena of Three Musketeers, or Massimo Durante, whose energetic performance of the Italian Dirty Pair opening theme, Kate and Julie, deserves immortality. Popular local themes are treasured by their fans, but using current chart hits or locally popular styles is not always the best strategy. Excessive use of popular music dates and places a show with great precision, which can work to create an instant gratification point for audiences at the time, but usually softens the shelf life of the product, for which see, or rather hear, Bubblegum Crisis and Samurai Champloo. Excessive use of popular music dates and places a show with great precision, which can work to create an instant identification point for audiences at the time, but usually shortens the shelf life of the product. For example, Bubblegum Crisis and Samurai Champloo? Samurai Champloo is a very strange example because it's very deliberately a contrasting musical style given the source material of like Edo Japan, or medieval Japan. Like, I don't know if that necessarily ages it exactly in a way that's like it shortens the shelf life of the product. I don't know. That's not. No mention of Kenji Kawai yet. They did. No, they did. He was one of the 6 or 7 they rattled off at the beginning. He was ranked. He was ranked 5th under Kohei Tanaka and above Shiro Sagisu. Entire industry history of production would have been cooler, yeah. Should have changed to Fly Me to Mars, yeah. Oh, that wasn't the idol mention I was hoping for. They used the Gilbert songs in the live-action movie of Maison de Koku. No mention of Kitty, yeah. What would you say is the best anime-related video on YouTube, since you are the foremost expert on the subject? Well, that's really tough because anime is such a vast subject that it's hard to point down one that's like, this was the best one or something like that. There's certainly been ones that I'm like, this has been the best of the year or stuff like that, but for different reasons, that don't necessarily compete with others. That's hard to say. I will tell you, the people that have made that video, whatever it may be, is a bit of an ego trip on my end, but I think the people that are in contention of that title, in my opinion, and it's okay if people are like, what about me? What about me, Shades? To me has been either Stevem, Cineclinic, Pause and Select, or myself. Just saying. Gonna head out. Good to see you, Positive. You probably already head out. Makes it dated argument. Yeah. Dub Origin's first finished Digimon OP is one of the worst dub OPs. Oh, yeah? Damn. Haven't heard of that one. It's his Better Berserk one, obviously. Thank you if you like that one, then thank you. I appreciate. I want more compliments of that one, because a particular longtime viewer of mine, I think, got way too salty over that one. Or maybe I'm over-exaggerating. But I didn't get a very supportive reception for that video, so any positive reception of it does help. Yeah, the Six Plateaus clique does have that vibe, since they don't really ditch their academic standards. Oh, the humble one, but I have to agree. And it's also like, it's hard. I think it's easier to do body of work than individual video, because again of how broad that the subject is. You kind of want to judge it. I think you want to judge the best one off of their body of work. Where am I? CD, each needing some kind of soundtrack there's a whole other strand of releases, both with and without the accompanying dialogue. The music attached to anime in its native lead doesn't necessarily travel out overseas. Nope, I have read this one. Yep, I was at Samurai Champloo. Yeah. Of course, as the French, Italian, Spanish, and other importers of anime have demonstrated, a soundtrack isn't all that hard to replace, either wholly or in part. Are they like implying that like, hey, it's okay, you can just replace the soundtrack for Samurai Champloo and it won't be as dated? Like, are they seriously making this argument right now? Not like specifically. It's just that's what it implies to me. Come on. But hiring composers like Kano and Sakamoto is likely to produce a more interesting result than using hand-me-down songs based on transient fads. What an awful take! No. No. Just because the live-action Cowboy Bebop had contributions from Yoko Kanno did not prevent it from sucking ass. Sometimes, however, the inspiration can travel both ways. It was the French group Daft Punk who hired Leiji Matsumoto to create pop promos for them, which eventually led to the movie Interstellar 5555. Similarly, the musicians of the British group Boa were to use their performance of the opening theme to Serial Experiments Lane as a means to break into the American market that had previously eluded them. Much in music and anime can also be a story element in itself, and there it is. And it's like, oh, here's all the music anime. Let's see which ones they mention. Stories inspired by or themed around music include lives of famous musicians, of great composers, wish fulfillment tales of wannabe musicians, and stories where the role of music or sound in our lives is the central idea, like Detroit Metal City. The concept of stealing sound is the focus of shows from the highly traditional Carol, not Carol and Tuesday, just Carol, because Carol and Tuesday didn't come out by then, to the experimental noise man. The struggle to become a performer is depicted in so many shows. It could be a book in itself, covering all musical genres from pop musicians like those in Black Heaven, Wandering Sun, or Beck, classical artists like Canon, or wannabe idols like Creamy Mommy. Real-life performers also crop up in anime, like Nitabo, the story of a Japanese folk musician, while virtual idols reached their arguable apotheosis with software that allowed users to control their own singer, Hatsune Miku Live Party. Perhaps anime music's finest moment of inspiration was when Macross floated the idea that a pretty girl could save humanity from alien annihilation with the power of a heartfelt love song. Such a simple and beautiful idea that it still brings a tear to the eye, even for cynical old anime historians. I'm happy they at least ended it on Macross. That's nice. Boy, that so much for fucking idols though. Fucking rip. Oh man, they like you just put your hands in your pocket. Like, oh, there's nothing there. A little fly flies out. Sorry, fellas. A little flea flies out. Yeah, that's it. Stephen Legault, where did you find the other two plateaus? Where did I find the other two plateaus? I'm not sure what you mean. It's even edited like ass. It's the Japanese OP video, but they poorly edited it. Yeah. I think they are making the argument that it's easy to replace music for foreign markets. Like, yeah, sure, but... Average white Brit thinks poor of hip-hop news at 11. These guys are already dreadful anime snobs. I don't want to hear them be unqualified and worse music snobs. As a dedicated anime song enthusiast, I am personally offended. Like, Mew Mew Power has different music, but from Tokyo Mew Mew, and it's implemented pretty seamlessly. Yeah, no bad dub opening will ever outdo Monster Rancher. While perhaps not the objective worst dub OP, the fact that the original version had 6 completely unique OPs is Kino. Well, at least they admit they're cynical. Yeah. Well, guess that's a trudge for that. At least Creamy Mommy, still. Yeah, no. And Hatsune Miku! You got Hatsune Miku there. Great. And instead of that, the dub just reused the same OP video. Wow. Glad they mentioned Wandering Sun, but they could have gone way deeper into it. Yeah. No Idol Masters in a Glossia mentioned. 0 out of 10. New Power is a dub OP. I actually unironically love Japanese OPs great too. Great Todaze Koitsuwa. 3 out of 5. Hour and 26. That we're definitely made better progress, but we can't chat now. Overseas distribution and piracy. I better sit down for this one. I gotta be right back. Purple hat hype, purple hat hype. What's shaking, bacon? Hello, holy pig. Piracy's my middle name. You summoned me. I guess you're right. Article is just, please don't use 9 anime. Nah, I hope they have a good take. I really hope. I think it's gonna be really smart. I actually have faith in this one. Maybe that's cope. Maybe that's copium. What's this I'll be back image from? It is from the Yawara ED. As well, I'm not really over, fellas, but this is also from the Yawara ED. You can tell the snowman there is her like grandfather or uncle or something, and it like cycles through the 4 seasons basically. It's really Kino. There's like a summer one and a fall one as well. Let me see if I have them. You can look it up. Please don't use 9 anime. Yeah. Alright, just a quick snack and Twitter break. Alright. I thought it was from the that Manga Nippon show. No. Too much copium is bad for the environment. True. Sorry, it was 1,000 plateaus. French philosopher reference, apparently. Oh. Back from watching Finish Digimon OP per chat's recommendation. Definitely not good. I've seen worse. At least they don't have a MIDI instrumental. Remember when I remastered the German Naruto OP? I do. Can't believe you take an X break in the middle of the stream. Yeah, true. What are you gonna do? Thanks for not leaving, fellas. But we want to understand what it feels like to have your rights read to you by the Sorry, death grips. Okay, it's an hour and 31, and the movement ambience playlist just restarted. Let's fucking finish this article by the time we get to in a half hour. Just limit to this fucking half hour. Oh my god, it's so long. Okay, we can totally do this, dude. We're crushing it. We're fucking crushing it. Every time I scroll, I'll be able to look at the chat. Unfortunately, you won't be able to tell when that is, but I will look at the chat once I scroll and do like 2 columns at a time. But like, this is how many... hold on. Hello? That's new. Oh, okay. All right. Where did you come from? Where did you go? Oh. Well, there you go. Oh, hello. Hello, hello. Oh, there we go. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Like 9 fucking scrolls. Long ass fucking article. Alright, we're doing it. How's it going, Glowworm? Good to see you. But I'm gonna focus on this stream, on this reading. And then I will, yeah. I might give comments. I'm not gonna look. I've literally minimized chat. I cannot see it until I scroll. Although there was some international contact among filmmakers in the days of early anime, Japanese animation made its first major steps abroad after the Second World War. Toei Animation became involved at an early stage as part of a long-term company policy to make movies suitable for the export market. Its first feature film, Panda and the Magic Serpent, was a prize winner in the 1959 Venice Film Festival. It was followed by Osamu Tezuka's first feature, Alakazam the Great, in a dubbed version that had great longevity. Television anime began its export drive early, with the New Adventures of Pinocchio, made in Japan for American clients in 1961, and Astro Boy, screened in America mere months after its Japanese premiere in 1963. Few American viewers realized they were watching a Japanese show and were indeed encouraged not to, through censorship and localization. Several more anime series were sold to the US in the 1960s. The Eighth Man, Gigantor, Prince Planet, Marine Boy, Kimba, Speed Racer, Amazing 3. Many were also screened in other English-speaking territories such as Australia and South Africa, although all of these early TV translations, only Marine Boy made it to Britain. The same period saw Japanese animators from the Topcraft studio and others working on American cartoons for Rankin Bass. 1970 saw only 2 major US TV screenings of openly Japanese works, but Star Blazers and Battle of the Planets achieved something new, winning fans in high schools and colleges all over the country. Anime enjoyed similar paths to success in Europe. French TV screened children's series from the early 1970s, some of which later reappeared in North America on French-speaking channels in Canada. Kimba the White Lion aired in 1972 as Le Roi Léo, and Princess Knight, Prince Xavier, shown 2 years later alongside Italian-Japanese co-production Calimero. I have scrolled. How's the chat? Oh no, the screen is black. You've got a virus. Oh, I'm good. Luckily, it was replaced by 25 episodes in a much better OP. Yeah. I was watching whatever. Yeah, maybe. I will say so far, that was their discussion of early TV in the US. I'm working on a certain project, and my mind has been expanded quite substantially, and a lot of it is the perspective about anime's prominence in the US. And it's worth noting that this first wave that they talked about, Kimba, Speed Racer, Astro Boy, because nobody knew that it was Japanese, the fact that it was completely scrubbed of that meant that it has no bearing or impact on the proliferation of anime in the world or in the US. It's an important step. It's historic, don't get me wrong, but it's not part of the story, because that wasn't what ended up moving the boulder. People who grew up with it at that time, when they become adults, like in their 20s, 30s, they didn't make much difference when they weren't. That was not the market that was interested in anime the way that it would then be exploited and marketed towards and pushed eventually. The second wave did have some people, which they're talking about here, Battle of the Planets and and Star Blazers having attracted some high schoolers and college students, sure. But that was the time. The reason the second wave is important is because that was the first group, and it also includes Voltron, Transor Z, Force 5, a lot of that, like the 70s stuff, 70s, 80s, is because that matters as a separate wave because that happened while people could actually record on like they could home record those episodes. And that obviously was starting to create waves and circulation and interest beyond this thing of being like, this is something, you know? And obviously like people's interest in anime in terms of the VHS market and all that was happening on simultaneously, but it wasn't necessarily fostering it. It's not until the third wave, which I'm sure maybe I'm stealing a lot of their thunder here. It's not until the third wave, which is Sailor Moon, Dragon Ball, Digimon, Pokemon, Digimon, whatever. Though that group, which is like mid 90s to 2000s, is when it was a really big deal. Because by this time, anime was starting to be, have their own individual companies. 1991, you have, 3 companies start at the same time. 1992 or something like that. And that was the first, what made Sailor Moon, DBZ, and Pokemon stand out, and Digimon, whatever, that group, was it was the first time viewers were conscious that this was Japanese. What they were watching on television was Japanese animation. You did not have that before. And that's what makes them as much more of a significant deal and actually matter to the reason we have anime where it is today. And there's more to that story. There's a lot more. Oh my god. It is very fascinating, but I'm have to cut it off there. But I'm still able to read chat a little bit. My favorite lyric above, I defy evil. Yeah. I've seen boomers that say that only anime they like is Marine Boy because they didn't know it was anime at the time. Rip them, then. It's a whitewash unless it only sets the stage for future publisher interest, the donkey effect. That's really interesting, Aiden. I would have expected those words said about like Speed Racer or Gantor. I ended up surprising my in-laws when I told them those 2 shows were anime. As for Marine Boy, I'd never heard of it till now. Maybe it didn't have much TV presence. It has a different, some people had one show, some others had another. Marine Boy's been mentioned a lot of the time, and actually had some like major litigation surrounding it. I guess the big 3 would constitute a wave 4. Big 3 is interesting because those 3, it wasn't simply the anime. Because the animes are a little, well, Big 3 is a little weird. I think I actually still have the Jump tab open for me. Is one of them the site I was using? There's a site that was like tracking. Yes, I do have it open. Holy shit. There's this website called Jajanken, and it literally tracks the position of various, this is the 1970 issue. This was back when I was doing my Naruto video. And they have the kind of the rankings and popularities of this stuff. And the ranking, this top 3 here, this was what the big 3 was referring to. For a long stretch of time, and no other period of Shonen Jump has ever replicated this, and that's why there is no other big 3. It's just these 3. No other ones had such a hold, and obviously sometimes they would jump around with each other. I have to find the overall Yeah, there's Kochi Kame, all serialized works. Detailed data, past major works. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, so this was the top 5. This is how you know what the big 3 is. This is for manga, obviously. The point I was making is like a 4th wave. We're talking about anime, but the big 3 was just as much a manga deal as it was an anime deal. If more so manga, if anything, really. But here's the, every year has kind of their top 5, and this is based on their rankings or their data or whatever. And One Piece was at the top for a while. Then here comes Naruto in the year 2000. I think it starts in like 99 or 2000. Here we go. And now it's settling in. And I believe Bleach comes in 2002, 2003. So here comes Bleach. And then right here, 2004 is when you start having this stretch of, and heck, iShield 21 right there with them. Look at that. Really, really head in with them that whole time, But it really was. And then look, there's one year where Naruto was actually more popular than One Piece. Had like the #1 spot. And that was in 2005, around, I think around Sasuke Retrieval, something like that. But then, yeah, boom, 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 boom. And around 2010, I think Bleach, I believe Bleach might have ended. No, it didn't. It couldn't have possibly ended in 10. But yeah, it like falls dramatically. And then Naruto also falls dramatically. It ends in 2014. Maybe Bleach ended in 2010 or so. Maybe, I don't know. But you really do have this like stretch of like 2004, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Insane run of big 3. And by that time, the waves that we're talking about get a lot more complicated because there's so many more factors. It was much easier to kind of compartmentalize them as waves in the early times because you literally only had like a small handful of titles total. But by the time you get to 2003, 2000 even, a lot of things were in the market. A lot of things have happened. Been a long time. Also, my sincere apologies if my messages are too long. Nah, I like talking to chat. Marine Boy shares a show of all time. No Saint Seiya like hey yo, Yu-Gi-Oh up there. Bro, Bleach fell off to Torika. Yeah. Sad times. Alright, we're closing chat. I have to do another. It's already been 15 minutes and I did one raw. I'm awful. It's because I enjoy these little storytelling. I like talking like this. Talking about these things. It's interesting. More interesting than this, apparently. It's okay. Movies were also screened on television and theatrically, starting with the 1969 Toei Puss in Boots and 1978. But the major event in French anime history was the screening of Grandizer, Goldorak, in 1978. Summer vacation was considered a wasteland for children's programming in France, but by the time the schools reopened in September, Go Nagai's robot show was a word-of-mouth hit, believed by some critics to have secured an audience share approaching 100%. Since only children were presumed to be watching at that time of day. The series was still selling strongly today. Toei found it necessary to issue writs against pirate Goldorak DVD releases across French-speaking Europe in 2004. Goldorak was part of an anime viewing schedule which consisted, for the most part, of retold fairy tales and innocuous series. Candy Candy made her French debut just 2 months after Nagai's epic, but was followed in 1979 by Captain Harlock and on Antenna 2, and Battle of the Planets on TF1. Meanwhile, Goldorak was dubbed into Spanish as Goldrake and Arabic as Grandizer. Go Nagai's giant robot shows became a staple of Spanish TV and created a strong demand for preteen and teenage animated shows, while in Italy, they were so successful that Nagai set up an Italian company, Dynamic Italia, to manage his work there. In 1979, Spectreman became the first Japanese live-action show to hit French television, while with Haim Saban and Shuki Levi on the crew list. 15 years later, they would launch the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Following on from Calimero, French studio DiC collaborated on Ulysses 31 and Mysterious Cities of Gold. Nippon Animation's co-production with Spain's BRB International Around the World in 80 Days was shown in both France and Spain. I've just scrolled. Well, that was quick. That was nice. I'm going to do that again really, really quick, but I'll check out on chat. This is hilarious as hell because everyone in my high school acted like Naruto and Bleach were the most legendary. I mean, they are, but then they'd act like One Piece didn't exist. Well, certainly didn't help that One Piece in the West, the reception was a bit neutered, and it was significantly more cartoony. It didn't have that same this is different kind of vibe. It's a lot more universal. But I think that ended up to its advantage because look who's still here. Look who's still relevant. Look, don't get me wrong. Boruto's still going. Bleach 1000-Year Blood War is airing right now. But they're not One Piece. I see, that makes sense. Because OP is more comedy focused, and you can't go into boy teen based dick measuring if they aren't serious. But yeah. Next scroll. No chat. I've never really. This feels awfully familiar and like retreading a lot of similar ground. But again, with just more like listicle. Just feels very listicle to me. Just rambling off a bunch of tidbits that don't feel like they build to each other. Just a list. The same studio's co-production with Apollo Films, Alice in Wonderland, was screened in Europe in 1985, and as was the French release of the top-craft Rankin-Bass fantasy Last Unicorn, that year also saw the Western debut of Rainbow Bright, DiC's collaboration with US and Japanese studios. Classics of world literature have always attracted Japanese audiences, and created an interesting rebound market in which children watch their culture's stories, interpreted by foreign artists, then redubbed into their native tongues. Little El Cid was shown in Spain and France in 1981, with Les Mis in France the same year. Monkey Punch's Lupin III has enjoyed huge success in France and Italy since 1985, and Rosa Versailles sold the French Revolution back to France. There it is. Scandinavian stories have charmed European children in Japanese versions, including Niels and Auntie Spoon. What about Moomin? There it is. Jesus Christ. Less successful awaited in Finland, where Moomin's met with criticism from its original author. Excuse you? The 1990s version as well? Which, I mean, we're even looking into that, and, like, that doesn't even seem to be true. Like, there hasn't been any major evidence of that. Like, there's, like, a word from this other guy. Like, it was very loose of, like, where the actual source of this came from. It's just a juicy story to, like, run with. Then it doesn't matter if it's true. And Katri the Milkmaid, based on a Finnish children's book, was never broadcast at all. Meanwhile, Hayao Miyazaki mentioned, his fascination with all things exotically European included Italian airplanes, Scandinavian cities, Welsh miners, and Welsh writers, has helped to make his work popular across the continent. Anime has enjoyed success across East Asia, even in countries such as South... Wait a minute. Before you move on, fucking... What was the book Future Boy Conan was based on? It's based on Alexander Key's The Incredible Tide. You don't suppose we could mention that? Alexander Key's American sci-fi writer. I find that kind of interesting. Anyway. This isn't related to Europe. No, my narrative! Anime was also enjoyed success in East Asia, even in countries such as South Korea, where Japanese associations and imports were discouraged. Doraemon, in particular, became a local icon in Korea and Taiwan. Indonesian broadcasters feigned a complete lack of interest in Japanese television programming, only to find themselves screening it by proxy when they bought the supposedly American serials of Robotech and G-Force. Anime's popularity in East Asia also led to a rise in the piracy of animated titles. This was particularly prevalent in Taiwan, which was not a member of the United Nations, and hence not a signatory to several important copyright conventions. Interesting. Alright, that was a page scroll. OP's more comedy focused and can get... Yeah. I do like how much they're talking about Europe here. Yeah. Yeah, that is nice. Auntie Spoon? Maybe they do have a source in the book if they mention the movement. Yeah, perhaps. They have a, like, their third edition sources are a lot more robust. They're a lot bigger. There's a lot more of them. But that's just it. There's more of it. They're not necessarily citing particular... They're not doing any particular citing anywhere. It's just like an obligate. It just feels like an obligation. That like you have to put a selected bibliography. Like here's the selected bibliography for the first edition. It's the one page. The one page here. That's it. But it's still all those sources there, including magazines where they just list Animage, Anime UK, Anime Land, Animerica, AX Japan, Manga Mania, Mangamax, New Type, and Protoculture Addicts. You're gonna look through all of those every issue? Oh, right? The fuck. A lot of this is like their massive knowledge, right? Like they absorb so much. This book is a collection of data. Maybe they do have a source. Yeah, funny to look at the time in manga here in Finn. It's like top 4 is the big 3, and then there's Ginga Weed. Yeah, Great Tide. Also, in the movement, I'm pretty sure Tove was on board with the 90s. Oh yeah, it was through her estate. She wasn't alive by. No, she was. She was alive by then. She died in 2001. Yeah, she was. It was all through her estate. Like Lars was like a co-producer on it. Her brother, or like her brother, I think. Lars. Or her son. I don't actually know. I should check. The guy who was writing the comics at the time. Dude, trust us. Thanks, Encyclopedia. Very cool. It's a bummer to me Ginga Weed didn't have a higher budget for its anime. I love that manga. It's just as much as the original. I do like Ginga Weed a lot. I've only seen Ginga again. I've not seen Weed yet. I should sometime. I also need to see Made in Abyss 2. Lots of things to watch. I'm like 12 episodes behind on Fist of the North Star 2. And maybe 5 or 6 behind on Double Zeta Gundam. Like, too much. It's fine. It's fine. God, I want to drink water, but I'm going to wait till the end of the article. It's been 7 minutes away from my goal. Oh well, we're definitely not making it. I chewed up too much time. Pirate editions of both anime and manga have built entire publishing industries in many East Asian countries, in a boom that ironically worked to the advantage of the Japanese. In Korea, where Japanese imports were banned until the 1990s, since anime and manga did not officially exist, they were not subjected to the strict government censorship. For transgressive Korean youths, the best way to annoy their parents was to become an anime or manga fan. In other parts of Asia, most notably Taiwan and Hong Kong, the tsunami of cheap, unlicensed Japanese material springing into the market as fully formed serials and tie-in comic stories, often with merchandise and gaming spin-offs already present, undercut and outperformed many local artists, stifling native talent and leaving local comics and animation industries far behind the Japanese. Although there are numerous local talents and creators today, many East Asian creators find themselves pressured or steered into drawing pseudo-manga in imitation of the now legal Japanese titles which so dominate the medium. Respect where it's due. They like it, the competition. Crazy, really interesting. I'm really happy that's the first mention of piracy. It's like, it's bad. You know, obviously it can't. It's a good and bad. It's a tool. It's a tool. Obviously not legal tool. In the 1980s, as the exponential expansion of TV channels created still more demand for cheap programming, American television saw Go Nagai's 72-hit Mazinger Z, screened in 85 as Transor Z, and Queen of a Thousand Years. 2 hybrid series were created by splicing several entirely unrelated originals into a new American entity, Force 5 and Robotech, not only filled syndication schedules, but also sold robot toys to American boys with great success. Television, before the general availability of the home video recorder, had a captive audience. Viewers were unable to time shift in order to follow their favorite programs, a limitation networks could exploit with repeat showings. Just as the video recorder put an end to cinema theater rescreenings of favorite anime episodes in Japan, It also made it possible for Japanese television to travel to America without the need to pass through a broadcaster. That was a scroll. Get to check the chat. Check the chat's not. There you go. Check the chat's actually pretty good. It's pretty good. Don't mean to perpetuate the anime budget myth with that comment. No, you're fine. I wanted to, with Max, time production. Yeah, sure. Yeah, Tove is in a TV interview about the anime. Finished interview where they talk about the production. Glad you liked it. Oh, of course, it's on the nose to her fucking vision. It's perfect. That's why my 90s is still my favorite, even though I am interested in checking out 60s and 70s. It's in the state of an inevitable secondhand market, or will be black and white. Yeah. Okay, moving on. Next. Better keep going. Legend has it that anime first entered America through science fiction fandom on the East and West Coasts, where a large Japanese immigrant community, anime broadcasts on Japanese language local television, and a strong science fiction audience combined to make convention screenings, with and without translations, a possibility. Behind the scenes, certain anime companies were active collaborators in this supposed grassroots movement. Some of the first convention screenings used VCR or even 16mm prints donated by Japanese agents. The rise of the household VCR brought a new market into being, although some might argue that the combination of videocassette and personal computer was a deadly genie that the anime industry has been unable to stuff back into its bottle. Thanks to the Amiga, and much later to PC and Macintosh, it was now possible to add amateur subtitles or fan subs to anime videos, rendered easier in America than in Europe through the fact that Japan and the US shared the NTSC video format. Wow, that actually is an interesting point about why fan subs was a bigger deal in the United States than it was in Europe and other places, because of the video format. Very interesting. Fan subs were soon circulating unofficially and helping to build demand for Japanese animation in cult TV circles. The 1990s saw the return in syndication of serials first screened in the previous 3 decades, most notably the early morning screening of Speed Racer on MTV, which would in turn lead to a prominent Speed Racer poster seen on the wall of the apartment of the sitcom Friends. Also screened in 1995 were Battle of the Planets in new variants, and Ronin Warriors, a test for the later screenings of Dragon Ball and Sailor Moon with the new Techno Man. This did not result in spectacular ratings, but American licensing company Funimation persevered with a further series, Dragon Ball Z. A new Cartoon Network slot, Toonami, aired in March 1997, bringing back old US and Japanese shows like Thundercats and Voltron, and 1998 saw the arrival in America of Nintendo's latest Japanese merchandising gambit, Pokemon. That was a scroll, checking the chat. No comments, besides another anime so I wish I was more cognizant of the fans of the indie dramas. Hey, yeah. Fun times. Pokemon was followed by and also a little disappointed that they're pretty much only focusing on television. It's not the only thing. That was a big mover, but okay. I get it's kind of a big subject if they're just doing overseas distribution. Pokemon was followed by Digimon and Monster Rancher, setting the seed for a new millennium of exploitation. Not merely through television, but through merchandising and tie-ins, an imitation of the model already in place in Japan. At first traded via the convention circuit and the existing network of anime fan clubs, copies of anime found even wider circulations as Americans accessed the internet and created an unregulated, fast-moving market in information and goods. At a time in the 1990s, where there might have only been 100 anime fans per state, internet access helped establish virtual communities in order to encourage interest in the medium. As a predominantly young, tech-savvy interest group, many with access to computers or at home or college, anime fans were also able to use the internet for the preparation and distribution of fan subs in unprecedented quantities. The prevalence of unlicensed translations has been a subject of unending debate within the American anime business. Many industry employees admit to an early interest fostered by fan subs and argue that fan subs often function as free samples that encourage a later purchase or rental. However, fan subbing is also undeniably open to extreme abuse, and regardless of the motives of many fan subbers to popularize a medium that they love, the phenomenon creates ready-made materials for video pirates prepared to sell fan subs for personal profit. Which, yeah, I agree is kind of the main problem. You know, I think that's really the real stink that they're talking about here. Is that, like, you know, people are trying to make a living off of other people's art. It's just like stealing, you know, another person's fan art and selling it, right? And I do think generally, like, the internet and us as a community have agreed to that's a line that's stupid and shouldn't be crossed, that you shouldn't be asking for money or hiding it behind a paywall or something like that, or doing something in a way that you are profiting from having exchanged this series. Like, the money was exchanged. I wasn't there at the time with VHSs, but the money was often exchanged for the price of packaging and the VHS itself, like the price of materials, you know? And that was often why they would just, like, mail blank VHS tapes, and then the fan subs would come on and they just mail it back, and then maybe you pay for, like, postage or something because of the weight of the material. But, like, profit as, like, making a business and stuff, yeah, that wasn't really... But what was so funny about it, too, is that, like, you're not gonna make that much money from doing that. You're not gonna be super lucrative doing that. Because you're not gonna be able to do it, you're not gonna be able to sell it in Walmart, or in Borders, or in these comic book stores, or in these places that, like, you have to have contracts and, like, proof that you have the right to distribute, right? You know, you have a very limited reach. Even if you're doing, like, massive bootlegs, this huge operation, you go to convention circuits. A, conventions are savvy now, and they're not allowing the selling of this bootleg shit. But B, you're still only gonna reach and limit that audience. You know? You can't sell this stuff all that well. It's not even that effective. It's stupid. And all you're doing is stealing from artists. And so, like, the actual malicious thing now, where the reason we're like, please don't use 9 anime or Kiss anime, is that these pirates have found a way to profit off of these titles without directly charging the consumer. Which the consumer, I think a lot of people would be kind of icky about paying for Kiss service, you know what I mean? But ads, yeah, they can go through a gacha. They can sit through some, like, unobtrusive ads or whatever, like, not even like video ads, like just ads on the sidebars, and they'll make money that way. And they're making money off of not just the anime itself, or the people that made the anime, but the people that distributed it originally, right? The subs and all that. And, like, I think it's important to be specific about your particular concerns, but I was not trying to downplay the profitability of selling fan subs necessarily. I'm just communicating a perspective that I learned about yesterday, the thing that I worked on yesterday. The perspective of people who were in the business, who were like, clearly they're seeing a demand and they're just kind of observing it and then strategically buying the titles that they know fans are demanding, and then that's it. You know? So if anything, this sort of fan sub and piracy side of thing, that's actually demonstrating fan interest, if anything. You know, if you think of a modern time, you're like, they should license this obscure title. But then you go into Nya, and it has the number of downloads, and it's like less than 1,000. In the possible world, like, of all the people that are actively doing this, that's how many people have interest in it. Or maybe, I don't know if the Kiss could like track certain titles or whatever, the traffic to certain pages. They do actually. Kiss, at least Kiss at the time, I don't know if 9 does, but like they had views, they had like a view count on the in the particular title or whatever. And they have like sometimes they have that ranking of like the top most like popular series or whatever. They have some analytics on that. But like, even those things, it's like you can gauge that, and it's like, yeah, no, very little interest in this. It's whatever. It's interesting to talk about. I'm not done with the scroll though, so I can't read the chat yet. I definitely blew past the 2 hour. It's every time I do these rants and talks and everything, that just goes by. Oh well, let's try to make it to 2:15. That's not gonna make it, but 2:30, an hour. Consequently, what was once deemed a harmless activity, not unlike borrowing a book from a friend, has escalated into a multi-million-dollar copyright infringement industry, and one which has periodically led companies to litigate against persistent offenders. The arrival of BitTorrent and other peer-to-peer file-sharing systems has made it even easier to obtain anime without paying for it. And what they're saying there has escalated to a multi-million-dollar copyright infringement industry. That's talking about like the price they pay to get this stuff, through legally. The price of like the going rate of translating and making official subs through a translator that you have paid and have also quality checked and timed. It's the investment that the actual companies are putting in that they are then taking as like, oh, we are not then making that money back. This is multi-millions of dollars, even when no money is being exchanged. It's the potential loss is what they're talking about, I think. And there is truth to that. There is a loss there in potential revenue, especially when really the vast majority of piracy that's happening now is just taking from Crunchyroll. Like it is free, legally accessible, and you're still taking it off of Nya or Kiss Anime or whatever. And I know this, I was a part of this for a while. We all know this. Yes, there is a loss to that of potential revenue. But it also gets me thinking about the frivolous spending that was happening back in the 2000s with certain companies and how much they were paying and shilling and outbidding each other, which the outbidding is still kind of happening, right? That's where all these big logistics, that's where the numbers are inflating. And then when they're not getting that profit back, oh, suddenly it's a loss. Suddenly it's piracy's problem. Am I saying that they're paying too much for some titles? Yeah. Yeah, I am. Right? We know that they have. Ghost in the Shell. Great movie. Manga UK helped fund it, right? They almost lost their shirt over that movie. Thankfully, they bought Ninja Scroll for like 1/8 of the price. They bought the rights to do the Ninja Scroll 1/8 of the price. And it did 10 times the profit of Ghost in the Shell. So they were lucky for some titles, right? That's the game. Sorry, I'm not even done with the fucking scroll. Fandom itself, legal, illegal, or in the gray area of fan subbing, which is illegal but often overlooked. Yeah. That's a hot take. Fan subbing, which is illegal but often overlooked. I don't know. Obviously, what they're doing with fan subbing is taking, material that they probably did not acquire legally. But the actual act of subbing is not. Because it's like, okay, obviously I'm making this scenario up that like no one's ever gonna do this. This is stupid to think of, but like imagine, well, actually it's not that stupid when you put it this way. People have bought, like in the recent times, in a lot of cases where like these titles have not even gotten like RAWs online, people have bought laser discs, they've imported them, and then they've put subs on them. And they could put that for personal, or they could share that, like they would have, like they said, like a book of the library. Obviously, this is a fringe case. This is not like the reason that piracy's bad or anything like that. But like the idea that like fan subbing is illegal but often overlooked. It's like the made up scenario that doesn't make any sense in my head that I was thinking initially was like, what if someone just took their copy of something that they own, right? It has subtitles already. But then they do it, and so they put it on in such a way that they just make their own fan subs, because people can be particular like that. What if they wanted it where like they wanted them to swear a little bit more, or they wanted to change a particular catchphrase? Like if you translate akan as crud, maybe you wanted to change that. Maybe as a fan who got that release and bought it already, maybe you want to change that crud to crap. Just your personal preference, that's just how you like to hear the line, and you want to experience this release with that. Then you just like go into the thing, create your own subs. That's fan subbing. That's not really illegal. What's illegal is distributing the physical, like the video media, to other people. You know? I don't know. The actual act of fan subbing, I don't think it's illegal. I think that's a hot take on their end. Remains an influential, informal distribution channel for anime. Now I've scrolled, and now I can probably, the whole chat's probably, it's been very long. No, not that long. That's good. Saying that Pokemon started an era of exploitation's wild, like cartoons have been marketing shit for you. Yeah. Like, oh no. Separate exploitation of distribution rather than merchandising, but yeah, not great framing. Thanks. Truly producer gambling, the inevitable economic breed. You can distribute translations separately from the title itself. Yeah. It's all the pieces of gray market, which loopholes in it. That's how game fan translation generally works. GM's not a proper market for different translations. That's not theoretical, by the way. There are subgroups that specialize on stuff like adding honorifics. And there are definitely a lot of cases when people make delocalization game patches. Yeah. It's a Brit take since they're narcs by national stereotype. Come on, Alexa. Alright. We scrolled. Let's keep going. I'm gonna speed read. Speed read. The only reason these streams go on forever is because I just go on my little pedestal. With weekend attendances often climbing into 5 figures, the convention circuit has formed its own microculture, effectively unionizing consumers. Some anime companies, particularly those whose sales rely on titles popular only in fandom rather than with the general public, often present a friendly brand identity at conventions by sending representatives to announce new releases and deflect criticism. Such trips can make or break smaller releases. They would have a negligible effect on a major distributor like Buena Vista, but 1,000 fans reaching for their wallets in a single weekend can make the difference between profit and a loss for titles aimed at the otaku market. The precise power of fandom is a paradox. Some argue that fandom is small and insignificant, and that, for example, fan subbing consequently represents a negligible loss in business when set against its promotional value. I'm not even talking about its promotional value. Negligible loss in business when set against promotional value. And no, but like, if the title is not legally accessible, if it's never been brought to the United States, no one is losing on it. The Japanese weren't selling it to begin with. There's no potential loss to begin with. It really depends on the title. Like, if you're pirating Ninja Scroll, yeah, like, that's a loss for whoever's currently licensing it. It's a loss in a potential sale, I guess. Because that person who downloads it is not going to then buy it. Or maybe they will. That's the thing. Some of them still will. I did. Not Ninja Scroll in particular, but like, I actually haven't even opened it. I bought our release of Saint Tail after I downloaded it. Not even to be like, oh, I wanted to test it. Like, I knew I would like it. I bought it like before I started watching, but I'd already downloaded it. And I'm like, you know what? I should probably buy it. And that's my personal that's my personal choice. Others claim that fandom's power is so great that companies should obey its every contradictory whim. Yeah, they're just being egotistical at that point because they're not seeing the big picture. They're not thinking like, as business people. When you're faced with the option of these two titles, which one should you license? And the answer ends up being neither of them. They're both going to flop, loser. It's like, oh, you kind of, you don't bring your whole self to work. You got to put that away. This is work. Which would suggest that fan subbing and internet downloading represent a significant danger to anime's increased profitability abroad, and hence the future of the foreign language anime business itself. Since piracy is by its very nature shadowy as in like we don't don't say that. Like, I guess. It is difficult to determine what difference it makes to the anime business. Yeah, it is difficult to determine. I think there's certainly some arguments to be made for sure. But, like, some specifics, name a company, name a title, name an offender. But you can't be like, piracy! It's like, okay. An experiment in late 2009 and early 2010, digitally fingerprinting 21 new anime titles and tracking their progress through informal distribution channels, revealed that the objects were copied 25,000 times and viewed 28.7 million times, suggesting that the potential overseas market for anime may be up to 20 to 30 times larger than it currently is. So long as nobody has to pay for anything. Revealed that the objects were copied 25,000 times and viewed 28.7 million times. So 21 new titles. Were each of them downloaded 25,000 times? The objects, I think it's a collective, the objects were 25,000 times. Viewed 28.7 million times. I'm kind of confused how they can get that number. I'm really not sure how they got, I don't know how they got that number. But also, it's like the same qualm about like having a clip of Demon Slayer episode 19 go up on Twitter and have it blow the fuck up, and millions and millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of people see it, and oh, it looks like the anime did pretty fucking well. Not to say that, free promotion. It certainly exploded its digital footprint and its notoriety. But it's all different cases. It's all case by case. The question of how many of these viewers would or could be transformed into paying customers remains a matter of prime discussion within the anime industry. Wait until they become paying working adults that have disposable income and are still fans and are like, I do want to pay for all this. There's a lot of anime fans that, have become kind of databasey and collectors of sorts. Discotheque is able to thrive as much as we are because it's like, all of the fans that we're talking about, they've watched these titles that we've announced, and the reason they're excited is because they've seen them and they know what they are, and they're excited that we got them. They got Leisner! Holy shit! Like, who else is excited about that but people who have already seen Leisner? And do you think just because they've seen Leisner already, they're not going to buy that disc? Not especially. But like, to me, and I made this argument in my video about why you should buy anime. One of the reasons that our company is able to do so well, and we're really at the top of the game at the moment. We're one of the top dogs, is because we give a shit, and we're not just putting these titles out for the sake of it. For like, you should watch it because we're putting it out legally. That's not an argument anymore. We know that. So why don't we make it so that you watch it in a way that you've never seen it before? We don't change anything. We update its visual quality. We get better subs. We give it a dub. That's a quality release. That's something valuable. It's not a collector's thing. It's not a moral argument. It's genuine additive value to the anime and to the fans. That's what makes it the best. That's why Street Fighter 2 in the 4K is like one of the highest selling discs right now. Sold over 1,000 discs in a month. And that's a 4K, so that's a little more expensive. So we're partying. We're doing real W. That's because we put it in like the best possible. We didn't just like convert it, like scaled it up to 4K like a dummy. We actually did it right. Had the master and scanned it properly, and literally did the best we possibly could, and the best anyone could, because we're kind of the best in the game. Sorry, I'm just bragging and talking big game right now. I just like talking about this stuff. Anyway. Million times. The question of as anime moves into its 7th decade in the US, science fiction and fantasy remains the dominant genres, with animated pornography gaining a higher profile than in its home market. Okay, now I'm gonna check the chat. I could play devil's advocate on some, but yeah, I'd rather not care as long as there isn't anyone else wanting to publish legally in hope of profit. I'm one of those people who usually will want to watch something before I buy it. There are only a couple series I own that I haven't seen. Ninja Scroll is out of print now. I don't know if it's legally streaming anymore. Pirating is also useful after licenses expire. But yeah, to be fair, ethical piracy supporting official release is the ideal, but would have to measure count customer norms. I don't know, maybe check pre and post Crunchyroll going from also... Yeah, well, Crunchyroll really did a number on piracy. Piracy just adapted. It just did something different. Now they just do it from Crunchyroll. But beforehand, it was a serious demand issue. It was an actual problem because the other companies couldn't keep up. They would put out like a year afterwards. It would take them a long time, and the fans already got it. It's over. You know? So that was I would say a skill issue, but it was a service issue. And Crunchyroll really solved that. Really did a number on that. But then it has its own things. I usually watch anime and then try to buy the Blu-ray if I like it. Classic free rider effect that pisses off economists and businesses. Plus, buying the Your Country Here Blu-ray of a show means that you're showing that series has fans in that region, which could mean it having receiving a dub or getting considering how badly PR through corporate marketing versus social media fan establishment. True, I'm excited for Space Collector Friend and Linguini. Community Totogate just got for a new season, possibly in part for its huge streaming success. Yeah. Fan subs give licensors a built-in audience. Potentially. Not always. Because you don't know if that particular fan group is going to convert into actual sales. Some might, some don't. It's not always a good indicator. But that's what they're saying, like, free promotion, like, yeah, hold your horses. There's certainly some stuff you can only get through a full publisher structure, but it does rely on whale dedication. Fortunately, the audience is there so long as the sales show, it seems. Just like Gabe Newell foretold for service issue. Yep. A Japanese origin is no longer hidden from viewers, but boldly, sometimes falsely proclaimed. Particularly in cases where American networks are involved directly with a Japanese studio. There is also a relatively small theatrical market, which was bolstered when Spirited Away won the Oscar for Best Animated Feature, which remains a mere fraction of the kind of numbers commanded by big Hollywood big hitters like Pixar and DreamWorks. As we write, in 2014, anime is screened regularly on TV and sold for home viewing not just in America, but also in every part of Europe. I'm just opening my box. including in its eastern borders. Poland and Russia have embraced Japanese cartoons with as much enthusiasm as their Western neighbors, with foreign companies now eagerly buying the rights to new anime, still often before they are even made. The new frontier for the Japanese industry is now China, a vast territory of 1 billion potential fans on the cusp of a digital switchover. Many already acquainted with the medium through viewings of Sino-friendly anime like Ranma and China No. 1. However, anime is currently largely absent from Chinese television, which, with import quotas now strictly legislating even against co-productions. Naruto and Detective Conan might win slots among the paltry 35 foreign films permitted annually in Chinese theaters, but viewing their TV incarnations is often possible only through access to pirated material. Broadcasting's increasing reliance on direct downloads and the internet has presented many anime companies with the opportunity to cut out numerous middlemen. The future of anime may well rest on hard drives and mobile phones, with foreign language versions released simultaneously, or as near as makes no difference in the case of Kurokami, in order to minimize the potential losses through fan subbing and piracy. I'm just going to finish this at the last part. This, however, creates new issues in overseas distribution. The potential for increased revenue from direct sales may well be offset by the increased headache caused by the loss of the echelon of foreign middlemen, forcing anime's Japanese producers to confront issues such as localization in multiple languages, or the expense and clearances of music rights in multiple territories. While a global day-date release for an anime is theoretically possible, the concerns of multiple cultures, multiple clearances, and multiple translations would be sure to radically skew it away from the anime it might otherwise have been if initially aimed solely at the Japanese market. Little dig on the globalization of it being like, hey, this isn't anime anymore. Very interesting. Hey, I got my Saint Hotel. It's so much cuter. Wow, this packaging is so cute. Look how white, look how like white it is. In the back, it's like fucking wedding. Oh, it's the cutest shit. These are kind of cute screenshots too. Kind of in a weird quality if you ask me. Asuka Jr. Whew. English dub for episodes 1 through 15? I didn't know there was a dub. Cute as shit. Cute as sin. Looking at the chat. Our Lord and Savior gave Newell. Hello, Zach. I wonder if they'd bring up media curation if it wasn't an issue till recently. I do a live unboxing. Still would get through my backlog faster. I still need to grab a copy of Saint Tail. When does Discotheque have sales? Is there a cadence a certain time of year? No idea. I don't really follow it. I only buy very particular releases. I don't really buy too much. They dubbed like 18 episodes on before dipping. 15 apparently. So let's open it. It doesn't look like there's an O. Yeah. It's an O slip, but I want to see the inside because there's like usually kind of a reversible cover almost. I wanted like a knife or something. I also have to eat a little bit. Wow, it's 2.5 hours. I will open this later. No, I won't open it while I'm on stream. I'll be right back. now it's been an hour. Great. Since the last story. That was a better article, by the way. That did not make me cringe my ass off. It did not make me want to die. I'd be so frugal, not frugal. Fragile. Careful with these releases, man. They could just so easily bend the fucking cardboard. They're still nice though. Worth it. Not as many nicks or things or whatever as like the corners they used to do. Still decent. Let's unbox Saint Detail. Ooh, cute and good. Look at him without the jacket on. Damn. Same back. Same everything really. And we open it. Oh yeah, multiple discs. This is Blu-ray. Hope you bought it because it was expensive to make because it has multiple discs and it's Blu-ray, so it's hard to author. Hope you bought it. Hope you do magical girl stuff. Yay. And the inside cover is cute. I always love to flip these sometimes. I think I'll keep the current one for the inside slip. Very nice. Very nice. I'll keep this on though, because this is like so cute, like prissy wedding type of shit. Yeah. Prissy, that's the word. Are they still selling it? Yeah, I think so. We only just released it. It's not like I got a print or anything. But you know, it's like the sooner you snag it, like the sooner we get results of like how good it is selling, the sooner the Selby makes those decisions. Sorry, Mr. Discotheque. The right stuff. They included it. Little promo for Street Fighter Duel. I don't give a shit. I don't give a fuck. Yeah, my address. Don't want to leak that. Hello? Well, now. How much is it? Let's find out on The Right Stuff. It is currently $52.46. Yeah, 43 episode show on Blu-ray for $50. The retail was $70, but they're currently selling it for 52 and change. Pretty good. It's actually the same price as Princess Tutu, which is half the number of episodes. Sorry, I have more people were like. I only buy in print anime through White Soft sales, with some exceptions. I'm curious if Linguini thing the chat is saying is a mainstream meme, or is it already? If it leads more people to watch Blue Comet Laser, I guess I can't complain. Well, yeah, the Linguini thing is just... It mostly refers to any mecha series that is, like, super obscure that we license. There was, like, a period for, like, 2 or 3 years where we constantly were like, announcing these completely obscure mecha series from the 80s and 90s. Mostly the 80s. It's not. I don't think it's a limited print. how recently I want to make sure my money was stable after some life expense for luxuries. Like this year, like within this year, I believe. We announced it very recently. I did the chapters this year, I'm pretty sure. I missed out on some recently out-of-print discotheque DVDs like Onizuka and Lovely Complex. Lovely found the later used for a good price. Oh, good. It's good. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, puppetry and stop! That's an P, not an S. I was thinking about the S. Puppetry and stop! There we go. Are you guys at Discotheque the ones who got a Gundam San a Blu-ray? Because I am definitely going to pick that up. We don't do Gundam. That's been the right stuff. That's been Nozomi Entertainment. They had all the Gundam. All the Gundam. Do you think Discotheque will license more Magical Girl series if Saint Tail and stuff get good? That is the idea. That is the plan. That is the hope. That is the strat. We'll see. To be fair, Nanoha is also in play. We've also been doing the Nanoha movies, so support those and see if we maybe get the series. I don't know. I haven't looked at the production schedule in a while. Have a look. I'm not going to say anything, obviously. Like the straightest fucking face. Well, I got it. I don't know. Hmm. Hmm. Right. Hmm. I'm sorry I'm doing this. Not much action on the stream itself. Maybe the anticipation's killing you, I don't know. Sorry I can't say anything really. Hmm. Okay. Hmm. Yeah. Something like that. Twitter break. I gotta get back. We have to go back. It's just my sluggishness of wanting to read these articles. Ugh. It's like taking your medicine. My bar done? It's not done. All right. Puppetry and stop. True animation was preceded on Japanese television by puppetry and picture shows. What is that supposed to mean? True animation? As if puppetry and stop motion are not? I guess. Okay. Weird. This knife is not a good thing to have next to me. Not that I have anything. Not that there's anything wrong with that. No. Which often subs forms and similar forms and materials. I'm gonna do a similar thing on closing the chat until I scroll. Child Without a Home, Ie Nakiko, was a TV series presented in 26 episodes, each 25 minutes in length, in which the entire story was told live with shadow puppets operated by the Kakashiza troupe. In its manipulation of flat characters against a painted background, it bore many similarities with the process of cell animation, but was significantly cheaper and faster. The first stop-motion animation in Japan was Princess Tsumeko and the Devil in 1955 by Tadahito Mochinaga, who had left cell-based anime behind after Momotaro's Divine Sea Warriors. Mochinaga learned the techniques of stop-motion animation in China during his sojourn at the Shanghai Animation Studio, and took them back to Japan in 1953. He oversaw several other stop-motion shorts in the 1950s, his collaborators including Yoshikazu Imamura and Kiichi Tanaka. Their highest profile work was the German sequence in Beer Through the Ages, a 12-minute commercial commissioned by the Asahi Brewing Company to celebrate its 50th anniversary, compared to Penguin's Memory. The authors presume that it was commissioned as several separate TV commercials, and only later edited together into its full running time, as listed in Japanese sources. Beginning with dancing drunken Babylonians, it traces the story of intoxicants through ancient Egypt and medieval Germany, before a depiction of Commodore Perry's ships bringing beer to Japan, comprising cut cellophane animation from Nobuo Ufuji. Kinema Junpo magazine voted it the 9th best cultural work of the year. That was great! That was good food! I enjoy that! That was a scroll, by the way. What's on that flag? It is... I don't know if I can... I got the logo on one of the hats. It's from camp. I'm looking for 2015. Thank you. It is the Axe Pickaxe. And the diamond is representing the Diamond Jubilee, where there was our 100th season of camp. But the Axe Pickaxe is a symbol that they used for one of the merit badges. I believe it was woodworking, like one of the first original ones. So it's the idea for like campcraft, that's sort of like camping survival skills. It's cool. It's like the communist like sickle our axe thing, but it's kosher. What did he say about the Momotaro animator? Yeah. He left after he was Ofuji. He worked with Ofuji on this thing called Beer Through the Ages, Beer Mukashi in 1956. And it was Tadahito Mochinaga who had left cell-based animation after Momotaro's Divine Sea Warriors, and then worked on that. Well, it's not read as to not arouse suspicion. Right. The our camp is our reservation is split into 3 camps, and the middle one is the red camp, like where all of us have colors, culture, iconography, mascots, songs, lore, landmarks, like their own countries almost. And the middle one, the middle geographically, the middle camp is the red camp. It's Medicine Bow. It's all like kind of Indian themed. All the campsites are named after Native American words, and one of their major mascots is the rooster. So their whole color swatch is red, black, white, little like light blue, because they have a lot of the sailing areas. They have like the whole aquatic center, which is all the sailboats. So they're very much more like a pond oriented type of thing. Okay. Other works included Mochinaga's Little Black Sambo's Tiger Conquest in 1956, exhibited at the Vancouver International Film Festival, and Five Little Monkeys in 1956, which won an Education Award in the year of its release. Often funded by Dentsu Eigasha, early stop-motion appeared to reach the limit of its development with Penguin Boys Lulu and Kiki, and Removing the Lump, both in 1958. The latter of which reached the heady heights of a 21-minute runtime. Stop motion, however, has all the labor-intensive difficulties of cell animation, but with few of the advantages. Sets must still be constructed, gravity still limits special effects, and the chances of mistakes ruining an entire scene are greatly increased. Furthermore, the success of the feature-length cell animation of Panda and the Magic Serpent in 1958 was a damaging blow to the future investment in stop motion. The potential for production line techniques allowed the output of cell animators to swiftly outstrip stop motion animators, and cells soon took over. Stop motion enjoyed limited success on Japanese television with Tadahito Mochinaga's series Prince Siscon, based on a manga by Doraemon creator Fujiko Fujio, and incorporating footage already made by Mochinaga for foreign export as The New Adventures of Pinocchio. I just scrolled, not really anyone chatting, but that reminded me of Crayon Shinchan has most of its opening themes. Since the second movie onwards, maybe it stops at some point, but they had one guy doing all these claymations, claymation stop motion animation for their intros. They were very fun and imaginative and complex. Very cool. Wonder if they'll mention it. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, based on a script by Romeo Muller, was undertaken by Mochinaga's team as work for hire for Videocraft, later known as Rankin Bass. This TV special remains a Yuletide regular in the English-speaking world, but like many other export works, was little known in Japan. So Mochinaga is the guy that did Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Wow. Like, it was interesting hearing about these like projects of his, but to connect it to like such a popular one, that's really cool. Mochinaga's, I feel like I've seen a video talking about him and Rudolph particularly, I think. So it's been covered on YouTube, I think. Mochinaga's MOM production company turned out a number of other stop-motion works for Rankin Bass, including Willie McBean and His Magic Machine, Anderson's Fairy Tales, Ballad of Smokey the Bear, and Mad Monster Party, all animated to match pre-recorded soundtracks and scripts supplied from America. It is notable that MOM production largely limited itself to TV specials, as serial stop-motion animation of 24 minutes a week was unworkable. A long-running stop-motion series was Ichiro Komuro's Little Battles of the Salaryman in 1970, but even that only managed a 27-episode run by keeping the episodes at a manageable 4 minutes each. As Japanese children's television succumbed to the onslaught of live-action rubber monster shows, there were some experiments with the use of animation for effects work. Devil Hunter Mitsurugi featured 3 live-action children wielding ceremonial swords themed on Wisdom, Humanity, and Love, which allowed them to combine into the stop-motion giant Mitsurugi, who can fight giant monster invaders from Scorpio. Made by the married animators Takeo Nakamura and Ayako Magiri, the show was innovative, but suffered from production processes that made it inevitably more time-consuming than Cells. The TBS network tried something similar with Transform Pompoko Jewels, a live-action series about two feuding Japanese families whose children were able to switch identities and genders. Shades here of the gender-swapping comedy of Rama One Half. As with Marvelous Melmo, the engines of transformation were red and blue magic, jewels here. As with Pompoko, Tanuki were involved, although they were regarded as interfering creatures from another world who happened to resemble Japanese raccoon dogs. As with Mitsurugi, the stop-motion elements were only employed very briefly, since the transformative powers of the magic jewels would only last for a maximum 10 minutes. Such an artificial time limit was common in special effects shows, whatever the medium, since it allowed the filmmakers to limit their effects budgets. Like, sure, there's probably a real life correlation to that. Like, they probably said that. Like, yeah, we did that because it was budget, whatever. But like, could you also mention that it's a very effective, like, storytelling device? When you have a time limit that's really interesting. Evangelion didn't need a fucking time limit, but it took it from Ultraman because it was a compelling aspect. Like, that, it's so weird to point that out, but maybe to point that out of being like, oh, this stuff's is kind of expensive or whatever. I don't know. Melmo the Goat mentioned. That's right. Moomy spotted. Good to see you. Yeah, later pastiched in the perilously short battery life of Evangelion. Similar excuses were tried in the live-action Ultraman and later pastiched in Evangelion. And it's like, it's one thing to be like cynical about. I don't know, not even one thing. It's just like, it's stupid to be like that. It's just so reductive. Like, I think it's fair to bring that up, but the only thing to bring that up, I feel like all it does is trivialize it. Like, that's the only reason they did it. It was a budgetary thing. Oh, it's bad. They don't have a lot of money there. The rubber suit, haha. Do you know what I mean? It just comes off that way. It just does. I'm just saying. You know, I haven't seen a lot of Ultraman. I've seen Shin Ultraman, really. But I've, you know, even there, like, you know, it's more of just Anno being, like, faithful to the original, right? But, like, there's other Heisei-era Ultraman, right? And do they have time limits as well? You sure as shit Kamen Rider didn't have a fucking time limit. And that was still Tokusatsu. What the hell? Yeah, it's pretty bad to always frame things as economically pessimistic ways, but it's definitely many times untrue, as the interviews do. Stop motion seemed fated to slip into the world of film festival awards for worthy effort, the prerogative of hobbyists and artists, but unlikely to attract much interest from the money-minded producers of the rest of commercial animation. Kazuhiko Watanabe's The Crane Returns a Favor won an educational prize at that year's Mainichi Film Concours, and Katsuo Takahashi's Ishun Boshi was voted one of the top 10 movies of the year by Kinema Jumpo. However, many of the early pioneers in stop-motion found alternative employment in puppetry, a creative medium that never escaped from children's television but remained a lucrative field, largely on the license-funded channel NHK. The animator Tadanari Okamoto made TV's first marionette series, Tamaro no Mai, a short-lived tale about a fox who was able to transform herself into a beautiful human girl. The original puppet version of Kirurin Village Tales lasted for over 1,000 episodes on television. Wow. The original puppet version of Chirorin Village Tales from 1956 over 1,000 episodes on television. Its stars becoming familiar voices to an entire generation, including Tetsuko Kuroyanagi from Chokan's story. Other TV experiments in puppetry included the space voyaging vessel Silica, created by sci-fi author Shinichi Hoshi, and Osamu Tezuka's Space Patrol, which was chiefly a puppet show, but also used cell animation for certain special effects and its opening sequence. Are the authors the people who are responsible for the budget myth? I mean, geez, it certainly would track. I have made that a point in my trend thing, but I still have yet to Control F budget and see how often they mention it and in what context and stuff. But they certainly make it a point to, like, emphasize it, I think. Ultraman having a time limit didn't keep it from being an expensive show. Oh, no. Yeah. Oh my god, you're right. Because it's not like they were doing... How accurate was the 5 minutes of time limit versus the actual screen time, right? That is very interesting. And I'm thinking of it more so, it's just like, you know, that's just Ultraman that has the time limit. If it truly was a budgetary concern, why wouldn't you see it in Power Rangers or Kamen Rider or Godzilla in some capacity? Why just Ultraman? Hello, Weird Prog. At least it's the way fans frame them to suffer a lot of production jokes. Ultraman's color timer was about a technical limitation, along with a lot of other things like the suit design that were felt as compromises by the creatives. To be fair, they were already pushing the limits. Color timers and stuff did continue to be used, but I don't think it was initially a creatively embraced idea. This writing does trivialize that fact and make odd points, I agree. They always were pushing it, sometimes to their detriments, traditional prestige. Like doing it just because every other one's doing it, and they don't necessarily take advantage of that or use it for any interesting scenarios. They just do it because they have to, because that's just a characteristic of their TV series. Complacency in art happens. In creative works, I should say. But yeah, art. Madcap Island ran for more than 1,000 episodes and received that ultimate of TV accolades, complaints about violence and bad language! Exclamation point. As a mark of its fame to Japanese viewers of a certain age, it even appeared in a cameo role playing on TV in Only Yesterday. Notably, its opening sequence was not puppetry, but a piece of cell animation by the art house creator Yoji Kuri. The sequence was shown every weekday for 5 years, arguably outlasting Astro Boy in its visibility to the Japanese public despite not being part of the animated show. Further discussion of the development of puppetry is beyond the scope of this book, except to note Ariel City 008 in 1969, 11 People of Nekojara City in 1970, and the samurai epic Hakenden, widely acknowledged by the makers of the anime Hakenden to have been a greater influence on them than the 19th century original. Other puppet shows of the 1970s include the original of Sanada's The Brave Warriors, an adaptation of the radio drama The Flutist, and 1978's Kujako, a Japanese retelling of the same myth that later became Peacock King. The early 1980s saw the flourishing of both Prin Prin and a puppet version of Great Conquest, Romance of the Three Kingdoms, for which the accomplished Kihachiro Kawamoto made over 400 puppets. Regarded as a highly disposable medium, with many thousands of episodes lost or wiped soon after their original broadcast, TV puppetry floundered. I don't know, I think floundered is the better word, but foundered in the 1980s, particularly after the ill-fated attempt of the commercial channel Fuji TV to make its own puppet show, the sci-fi spectacular X-Bomber in 1980. Let me read chat. Ultraman was made on cheap to some extent, like Eiji Tsuburaya, but Built his company on borrowing and stealing all the leftover suits from Godzilla. It was scrappy as much as it had budget. Madcap Island maybe has a lost Toei movie from 67. Wow. Despite creative input from Devilman creator Go Nagai and a truly gripping plot, X-Bomber was canceled partway through its run amid whispers of low ratings and enjoyed better success abroad under the title Starfleet. Fuji TV's attitude also seemed to influence NHK, the home of TV puppetry, whose Farewell Higeo in 1984 was the last puppet series to be shown on the channel for some years. The channel revived puppetry with Heike Monogatari in 1993, which also featured puppets designed by Kiharu Kawamoto, and Drum Kana, a significantly shorter puppet series broadcast in 7-minute segments as part of another program. The traditions of puppetry found new relevance in the late 1990s in digital animation as an example to the manipulators of virtual 3D models in 3D environments. Early digital anime often borrowed from puppetry, particularly in attempts to depict realistic human movement. As with puppets in the physical world, virtual models often have difficulty interacting with the environment around them. Figures are best filmed from their waist up to avoid notably unrealistic leg movements and foot placements. And characters in early digital animation such as Alice and Blue Remains spend prolonged periods sitting in vehicles or floating in space, water, or cyberspace. Malice Doll took the links between puppetry and stop motion to extremes, with a cast of puppets that come to life. Stop motion continues to flourish outside the commercial world of cell or digital animation, particularly at film festivals. In particular, Kihachi Kawamoto has continued to keep Japanese stop motion in the eyes of festival crowds. While the majority of the Japanese animation in this book reflects Western preconceptions of what anime should be, it is worth noting that Kawamoto became the president of the Japan Animation Association, and that Koji Yamamura's Mounthead was nominated for a Best Short Animation Academy Award in the same year as Hayao Miyazaki's Spirited Away. For the average Western viewer, however, the most likely encounter with stop-motion animation is probably the special effects in Shinya Tsukamoto's surreal live-action movie Tetsuo the Iron Man, or the claymation credit sequences of Ninja Nonsense, and many Crayon Shin-chan movies. There it is! They actually snuck it in at the end. I'm impressed. That was a great article. Yay! And I don't know if I really mentioned it, but piracy and overseas distribution was a good entry too. Pretty solid. Solid. And it's just over 3 hours. I got one more in me. I don't really want to stream that long. And 5 is a much better rounded number to me than 6 or 7. Ugh. Especially when, like, the one that's left is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's 10 left. Come on. We're gonna go in groups of 5 or 2 or something like that. Heck yeah, Shin-chans are good. Manabi Straight also has amazing stop-motion ED. Yeah, that's right! I remember that. Kawamoto seriously underrated. Oh, yeah. Was it 2? Was it... What is it, 2 or 4? Oh, it's 5. Ooh, I didn't know about the stop-motion stuff in Shin-chan movie. Yeah. The movies, the opening sequences are stop-motion. Or are claymation. Really cool. Really, really cool. I'm happy they brought it up. Ratings and box office. This should be interesting. Found it. Yep. Not as long, thankfully. But I gotta reward myself with a protein bar. Protein bar. I should have ate them at the beginning of sections and not the end, and so this would have been the last one, but no, it's the... I have one more. I'll eat this one at the end of the stream, but whatever. Oh. Good for his stinkers. Two and 2. These two felt listicle and predictable. These two were interesting. Bit of a snack and a Twitter break. I could have just been be right back, but I don't care. I don't care. I can do this. You know, one thing I might stream, I might continue to stream a little bit after we finish reading, is like, I need to do a lot of counting. I need to do a lot of shitty math. Because what I want for my script, what I want for the main video is, let's see if I can pull it up. Oh God! Can it be done? Can I pull it up? Hello? Yeah, look at this. So stupid. First, the number of first edition entries. So I literally count, like, I go in the book. I have the book here. I literally just count the number of A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And then I count the total number of entries in the third edition, A, B, C, D, E, F, etc. And then subtract that to get the number of original titles of the third edition. I've done that for A, B, C, D, E. I've counted the number of titles in the third edition because they were a little easier to do for all the way to S. Still gotta do T through Z and then do all the first edition of all this shit. Just to get the number, just to get the raw numbers of entries they have per letter, and then to get the totals. The letters are just to break it down. And then I have to count how many positive reviews are there, which I have been doing some, I've been counting. I think as of, I didn't enter the T ones yet, but I counted. I did actually count. Holy shit. I did actually count already. Oh my god, past me is amazing. 520 positive, 179 from the first edition, 341 for the third total. And that is that's originally like third edition exclusive titles, because I went through all of them, because I was asterisk is like third edition and this is first edition, 6 and 4. I was just counting basically. And I actually did put this asterisk and everything through the other ones that I've been reading live. Just going through the book and like, this is new, this is first, this is third, this is first, this is third, all the way through S. Oh my god, I'm a Chad. Just the amount of work that's happening here. Just to count how many, that's just the numbers for positive. And then the number of negative reviews. Yep, 269 total. First for the negative and for third. And what I want to do, so like the sentence, it's like fill in the blank really. What I want to say in the video, not that I want to read my script out, but the idea is the sentence is, just to give you the raw data, I say estimate because I'm counting all of them by hand. There's very likely I miscounted somehow. I don't know, but to the best of my knowledge, I estimate blank % of the first edition entries and blank % of the new entries, so third edition only, so like from 2002 to 2015, whatever, blank % of the new entries contain an opinion. So you look at the total number of entries, and then the number that have an opinion, like the total that are there, and how many are from each one. This % entries have an opinion, contain an opinion, making the total amount in the revised edition, so like the third edition, combine this two, is this % of entries include their opinion. And whatever takeaways I want to have about that. If the majority of the book is opinions, that's interesting. If it's not, okay, interesting. I don't know. Or how many more opinions did they give in the first versus the third? They feel like they actually doubled down on their opinion, on their idea of like giving their opinion about shit. I split their opinion into 4 categories, which was a subjective judgment on my part. Here are all the anime which they gave a positive impression about, that they would go for, you know, and I just give an entire scrolling list of the positive entries, just their names, just the titles that they're positive about, not the descriptions that I have here of just that's just for my own personal, like, why is it there, right? These made up blank % of all the entries in the first edition, but blank % in the third edition. Here are all the anime of the negative impressions. These made up blank % of the entries in the first edition and blank % in the third, which means blank. You want to, you know, were they more positive than negative? But I already know, no matter how positive, whatever, or negative, there's a lot of them that are mixed. And Helen states that she thinks they were very balanced. Let's find out if they were really balanced quantitatively. And then there's the dismissive opinions, which we'll see how many there are there, etc. Anyway, I haven't looked at the chat in a while. Let me look at that. The last stretch I'll probably miss out ahead soon. I also prep for good positive. Yeah, I don't know yet. I'm just doing the numbers right now, but I haven't done the raw calculations yet. I probably want to stream, like, have to do some tedious counting, but what the fuck, they call Age of Gamer Fubuki preachy and long-winded? Yeah. It's at least neat to have some objective measure, even with a judgment call on the vibes and tonal personality sum total, balanced via Box News definition. Right, fair and balanced. Okay, ratings and box office. It is this one. Well, not quite this one. This version. I have 2 versions of the big doc. Oh, they're kind of called the same thing. Oops. Yeah. Okay. Ratings and box office. Ratings and box office. I need more cowbells. Demands. I need more cowbell. Okay. Whew. Asuka Junior. Oh, Saint Tail's great. I need to watch more. Fishnet leggings, apparently. Okay. Okay. In general, anime's ratings on Japanese television are not particularly high. Those anime regarded in the Western market as fan favorites are often broadcast in the late night slots when literally nobody is watching. Even the fans are expected to set their video recorders and get some sleep, as how-to time shift articles of the late 20th century magazines implied. Japanese TV ratings are not precisely the same as America's Nielsen ratings, and are designed to show the percentage of televisions switched on in Japan, and tune into a particular channel at any given time. This has tended to grossly distort corporate comparative ratings over time, since, for example, it was not all that difficult for George Reeves' Adventures of Superman to gain a rating of 73% in the 1950s, when there were only a handful of channels to choose from. Astro Boy's famous peak rating of 40.3% in early 1964 was generated less by the story and more by the fact that the episode in question was a test broadcast for color TV. Arguably the biggest television program in Japanese history was the opening of the Tokyo Olympics in 1964, for which many consumers bought their first color television set, thereby helping to contribute to its massive 89.9% audience share. Live-action television continues to enjoy ratings vastly superior to animation on Japanese television, with notable peaks including the live-action Ocean in 1983 with 62.9%. Okay, I want to stop there. I have another little tidbit that I've learned in the sacred texts. I'm going to call it the sacred texts, actually, because what I did yesterday was work on something that had a lot of information that was new to me, or at least had a perspective that was very informative and comes from a place of like first-hand account and was there at the time, and their perspective and what they were told and their words of wisdom and stuff. And the guy's a Chad. I cannot wait for when this comes out eventually. I don't know when. Long time. I don't know. But like, I'm really excited and like looking forward to it being kind of a more mainstream, or like, you know, more eyes get on it and this guy kind of becomes a more well-known figure. He's fairly well-known now already, but like kind of misunderstood. But like the dude is a Chad. I like the like really admirable role model type of figure to me. Like it's a totally well, so what the reason I'm bringing this up, one of the things he talked about, and I'm probably butchering what he's saying, or not giving the full context. He mentioned how not even so like the framing of like anime, not Fred Patton, he's already dead. The framing of Japan isn't, anime's not cool, guys, and we have to like, but it is cool. Like in America, they had to fight that in Japan too. It like, I don't think this does a good job. I still feel like this framing of being like, it's still in the late night, you guys. It's not really being as frank as saying they considered it low art. They have like Japanese terms for high art and low art. Low art. And anime was considered like below that, beneath most Japanese people. Not even just it's for kids. Not even the same thing. It was just not respected. And the sick irony and like kind of the sweet, like, your tears are delicious, like retributive feeling was fucking cool Japan. Because all that time, these guys who were proliferating anime in the West, trying to get it more well-known and more accepted, were simultaneously doing that work in Japan too. And it wasn't until there was a wider global acceptance of anime does Japan then internalize and look inwards and be like, Yeah, this stuff is kind of cool. Hey, cool like, anime, right? It's like they actually embraced it when they didn't before. It was still niche for decades until like 2010. And that was such a big. This is not frank. This is not being frank enough. When I think they know this. I think the authors realize that, and it would be hard, I think, for them to say that, especially given all that we've read from them, right? But coming from the guy that I learned this from, his framing of it, and his life experience in this, and what he was told, and what he saw, and his experience, it's like, oh my god. It was really, really eye-opening. And that just shows, like, that just makes it more exciting to me. Because we weren't just fighting for anime for, like, the sake of, like, our own enjoyment and for for West or whatever, for, like, for the world. We were fighting it for the people that actually made it, too. Not to say that those people doesn't, they can feel however they want about their own work, but, like, their work clearly wasn't being respected by the mainstream, by the public. Until much later. You think about, like, the statues and the monuments and the museums and how big certain events are now and how well anime is doing in box office. That's really only been happening in the past couple of years, right? It's really only been happening since, like, the 2000s, 2010s, but, like, not earlier. They really, I'm sorry, I really don't buy the thing you're telling right now, so you'd have to deliver the sauce. Oh, in terms of, like, what is it? Like, who's the guy I'm talking about? That's fair. I can't, what are the terms? Oh, what are the terms? Oh god, I have to look back into what he said. Is Hige? It was like Hige, Hiega and Soega or whatever. It was certain. It was some. It was a high. It was like a combo word. It was like a combo, like like an invented term, like something ega and like Hiega. And he was saying the examples of high art at that in that moment was, wood carvings and paintings and et cetera, like certain types and mediums of Japanese art that ironically were considered low art back in the day, like way back in ancient times, because aristocrats and royalty wouldn't dare put it in their house. Like, he's just genuinely talking about Japanese culture. There's definitely still that stigma that sticks there. Yeah. That should have has some benefits beyond national soft power. It's not even just benefits, it was more of just irony. It was more like, oh, now you see it. Is it similar to the vindication of nerd culture, including the comic book universe boom? Or do we still lack any appreciation for as fine arts? Well, when he gives the full perspective, I guess I'll give the fucking name. But I will put it in here, and then I'll delete the message. You gotta be ready for this, fellas. There's an interview with this guy. Okay. And, yeah. I obviously don't need to I guess I can... It's okay to say what it was, but, like... it wasn't what... Like, in terms of what the project is for. It's because it's not been officially announced yet. It's not been, like, confirmed or anything. We're still working on it. We're actually just starting to work on it, really. But yeah, like... It was like a 2.5 hour interview. I edited it, like, all day yesterday. And it was so interesting. Like, there were so many things that he said that were challenging my preconceptions, but framed in such a way that was like, oh, I get it. Everything made sense. It didn't show up for me. Oh, rip. Retract. Maybe because it was retracted or something. Yeah, I apologize. I don't know why I'm so nervous about it. I don't know. Because it's not. I've already talked enough about it. I'm just like, it's a thing. But, from everything I've seen about cool Japan, it has been less of recognition as anime as art and more of government recognizing its commercial potential. No, you're right. That is what it is. And I'm saying it, I am agreeing it's cynical. And it's like, your tears are like, oh, now you want to fucking do business with us. Oh, now you see it as something commercially viable. And the thing is, the commercially viable and the inherent value are intertwined in this case, because if it is commercially spread, it lifts the cultural relevance along with it. You know, it's one thing to kind of like, there's always saying earlier about fan subs and you know, selling them for profit or whatever. You're really only going to get a certain amount of reach from doing that. It's not until you bring it into an elevated platform and it's commercially viable will it actually start spreading and actually start getting in people's heads of what this thing is. And you start to make that headway into acceptance. Yeah, cynically, I assume I assume it as a convenient vessel, but yeah, now ball's in our court now. They're not similar to hay. Yeah. It's not to say that Cool Japan is like a good thing. It was more of just like, really? Like too little late type of deal. But it's to show that like that wasn't there before. There wasn't that appreciation for manga and anime in the 80s, 90s, 2000s. 2000s is when it starts to actually kind of move. And it's really 2010s we're actually feeling it. Heading out. Good to see you, Annalisa. Let me finish this damn fucking rating box office that didn't fucking start. Again, like, the tangents are really what bloat this thing, but it's okay. I am enjoying. Let's see. Live-action television continues to enjoy ratings vastly superior to animation on Japanese television, with notable peaks including the live-action Ocean in 1983 with 62.9%. Popular primetime drama shows and NHK historical dramas regularly gain ratings around the 30% mark. Contrary to misleading publicity in America, the live-action GTO was never the most watched TV program in Japan, since its peak ratings were a respectable 36.8%, an impressive figure, but one which is regularly trounced, and was in fact beaten by Hero that same season. Average anime tend to have ratings below 7%, and it's not unusual for ratings to fall below 2%. The highest rating achieved by an anime in recent memory was for an episode of Chibi Maruko-chan in 1990, at 39.9%, beating the previous record of 39.4% held by Saze-san since 1979. Star of the Giants and Dr. Slump tie for third place with 36.9%. The television broadcast of Princess Mononoke secured 35.1%, while other shows with peaks in the 30s include Gutsy Frog, Japanese folk manga Nihon, Tiger Mask, Touch, and Ashita no Joe. Unsurprisingly, anime ratings are higher when adult viewers are discounted and analysis is restricted solely to the juvenile audience. Statistics compiled by NHK's Cultural Research Bureau suggest not only that very young viewers are encouraged by their parents to see shows as Watch with Mother, Okasan to Isho, and playing in English, but also that they comprise a large viewing component of the audiences for primetime programming, such as Saze-san at ages as young as 2. In recent years, the only statistically noteworthy anime challenge to juvenile classics has been presented by Pokemon, which it still regularly snatches a large proportion of the young audience, around 5%. The contemporary high-rated shows include Naruto at 5%, Conan at 6%, and One Piece at 8%. Conversely, the critic Makoto Tada, in his book Kore Anime Business Da, in 2002, estimated the size... So this is nice when they actually give specific sources when they say something. That's nice. Estimated the size of the dedicated anime otaku audience in Japan to be just 400,000, which suggests a maximum possible rating among otaku of merely 0.004%. The Nomura Research Institute, in its study Otaku Marketing in 2005, estimated this audience to be merely 112,000 people, which is to say, in audience share terms, a rating of 0.1%. This perhaps explains why so many anime for mature audiences congregate in this graveyard shift, the only place where such a small audience is remotely acceptable to advertisers and broadcasters. I wonder if that's why there's a live-action thing on it. Oh, sure. The picture of anime at cinemas is very different. Arguably, we are living in the golden age of anime cinema, since recent years have seen anime movies become the highest-grossing movies of any kind at the Japanese box office. However, until the coming of Studio Ghibli, anime's box office performance was significantly less impressive. Anime movies were aimed at children during seasonal vacations, and often took the form of roadshow anthologies in which popular TV anime characters of the moment would briefly shine in a theatrical release. This emphasis, as in children's movies around the world, is often a choice between pablum for a child-only market, in the hope that parents can earn a 2-hour rest by leaving their offspring at a cinema, or a genuine family movie with cross-generational appeal, designed to ensure that the parents have to buy tickets for themselves along with those for their kids. The Japanese cinema industry was in a notorious slump for many years, never quite recovering from the arrival of TV, with many movie releases simply taking the form of very limited theatrical runs for promotional purposes. The difference, in such cases, between a video release and a cinema release is that screening in a cinema anywhere, however brief, obligates dedicated cinema magazines to at least review a movie, and thereby helps gain additional press attention ahead of the inevitable video release. Sometimes the difference can be quite astonishing. Mamoru Oshii's Ghost in the Shell, hailed around the world as a global masterpiece of modern anime, played in Tokyo theaters for barely 2 weeks. Japanese box office records were dominated, and that totally contrasts now with the anime films in Japan now, where they last fucking 8 months, which is such the inverse of like modern movies today, because they're playing for like 45 days and then they're on streaming. But then you have fucking One Piece Film Red and First Slam Dunk being in theaters for months, and it's like a sad thing when they leave. It's like a farewell fucking event when they're done. Japanese box office records were dominated for almost 2 decades by 2 live-action movies, Spielberg's E.T. and Koriyoshi Kuriha's Antarctica. It was not until the late 1990s that a sudden rush of blockbusters leapt ahead. AI, Mission Impossible 2, Independence Day, Star Wars Episode 1, Jurassic Park, and Armageddon. The number 1 spot at the Japanese box office then fell in quick succession to Princess Mononoke, Titanic, and then Spirited Away. Hype for Howl's Moving Castle tends to emphasize for its record-breaking opening weekend, avoiding mention of the fact that it failed to outperform its predecessors overall. Yeah, who cares, okay? That's still an impressive accomplishment, okay? It didn't beat Spirited Away. Such high numbers for Ghibli movies are a relatively recent phenomenon, and only really date from 1997, when Princess Mononoke's takings were 4 times that of its Miyazaki predecessor, Porco Rosso, which had, until that point, been the best-performing Ghibli film in cinemas. Previously, Studio Ghibli's real strength had been in the home video market. Its films performed reasonably at cinemas, breaking records for anime, if not for movies in general, and were the only films that seriously competed for the cartoon market share of Buena Vista Japan's Disney videos and DVDs. Even in the 1990s, the best-selling non-Ghibli cartoons in Japan were works such as Beauty and the Beast and The Lion King, with only a handful of works such as Evangelion and Oh My Goddess even scraping the top tens. Anime movies for the otaku audience in Japan are increasingly likely to be screened as unique or limited period events in a single theater or on a very small tour, in order to concentrate fans and marketing. There is no point in a 200-screen release and a nationwide marketing campaign for a franchise with only 5,000 dedicated followers. It is becoming increasingly common for such events to monetize through merchandise, on the understanding that venues will present the only opportunity to buy unique goods or limited edition Blu-rays of the film just seen. Although this helps keep alive films for a small audience, it has also led to a drift away from feature-length works, with films such as In the Forest of the Fireflies only running 44 minutes. Although this is harmless for specialized public events in Japan, it makes such works problematic to release as films in cinemas abroad. I cannot wait to read the second edition of this shit. Clements is usually the ones writing these thematic entries, and this conversation about box office and ratings is completely blown out of the water since Your Name. Completely different game. Like, Ghibli's not even in the conversation anymore. It's incredible how much has changed now. Like, every new film, any major anime film, seems to top the last one. Or at least do is, find their place in the top 10. It's incredible. I wonder if that's why there's a live action. I was in Japan the weekend Kimi no Na wa premiered and ended up watching it in theaters the following year, over a full year later, when it was still in theaters. Yeah. How to Live, Boy and the Heron will be in theaters forever. Yeah, we'll see. That'd be nice. How do you watch The Lion King dubbed or subbed? Yeah. Was watching an interview with Mamoru Oshii, and it was very eye-opening to how that film did not land as a big hit at the time it came out. That fact seems to have left a mark on him. Oh, yeah. I can't imagine, because he still treated as hot shit for that movie. But it didn't perform that same way. And it, like, that's a hell of a run. Going from Beautiful Dreamer, Angel's Egg, Gosenzo Sama Banzai, Patlabor 1, Patlabor 2, Ghost in the Shell. That's pretty good. That's a crazy good run. Creatively. Not so much financially. But that certainly has to leave a chip on your shoulder. When you know you're making this stuff that's like as good or as respected as these other guys that are actually doing well at the box office. Can't imagine. Can't relate. I can relate. Ghibli encourages a certain brand loyalty in the Japanese public. A survey conducted for Toho discovered that the Studio Ghibli name enjoyed an impressive 43% trust rating from film-going respondents. The score rose to an even more impressive 64.2% if the name Miyazaki appeared on the movie, perhaps helping to explain Ghibli's controversial decision to hire Miyazaki's son, Goro, to direct Tales from Earthsea. The Japanese successes of Ghibli, or indeed of any other anime, are not necessarily repeated abroad. At the American box office, 3 of the top 4 best-performing anime are Pokemon films. Not anymore, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe that's still the case. Maybe that's still the case, I think. But it's certainly the conversation. It's definitely improved since then, since 2014. With the #1 spot going to the $85 million gross of Pokemon the first movie. Yu-Gi-Oh!, which is a lot of money, to be fair. I don't know if a ton of other anime films have got to 85 million. They'd have to get close to the century mark. The Yu-Gi-Oh movie is at number 3 with 19.8 million. And by the time we reach the highest grossing Ghibli movie, Spirited Away, at number 5, takings have fallen to a more modest $10 million. The Cowboy Bebop movie at number 11 is the last American anime release to earn over $1 million in theaters. Takings in the lower half of the top 20 for movies such as Perfect Blue and Tokyo Godfathers barely break 6 figures. To put such figures into their business contract, DreamWorks spent over $30 million on prints and advertising alone for Shrek, which went on to take more than $250 million at the US box office. Anime may be growing in popularity, but it still has a long way to go before it presents a serious challenge to big movie business. In fact, it is arguable that without Miyazaki and Pikachu, anime's standing in cinemas would be almost unnoticeable. That's a lot. Pokemon the first movie is still number 1, but Demon Slayer is number 2. Nice. Demon Slayer definitely changes the conversation. I'm very much looking forward to the second edition because it isn't just the first edition since Your Name, but also since Pandemic Demon Slayer. It should be arriving next week for me. It says it's arriving September 22nd. And I will be reading a lot. I have so much to do. I have so much I want to do. If I can just watch shows and other shit, and here I am streaming for 3.5 hours. But that's it. In that case, I should probably, if I want to do other things like watch some stuff, I better get to it. Yeah, of course. But yeah, I think next time when we do sorry, I was quoting Game Grumps. The way this is working right now with fucking yeah. If you're seeing that, sorry. I was expecting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 October 6th to finish. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's a little ways into October. October 6th finish. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If I do 2 articles per reading, while also doing the full of readings and stuff, I think that's the play. So what I need is you. So I've done these 2 now. Okay, you, religion, belief, romance, and drama. V, sci-fi and robots, sports, anime, 50 to this point, stereotypes and archetypes. Ugh. To do technology and formats, this also has translation. Tropes and transformations. Ugh. Voice acting. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, there it is. I moved. Fucking fuck. And then last one's voice acting and wartime anime. And then this for finishing. Oh. Also, superheroes number 4 to go. Wow. And then yeah, so just 2 of the so now 2 of the top 4 are Pokemon movies. I'm gonna double check this site real quick though. All right. Ah. That was gonna be a great. That would have been a great track to end on, but guess we can't have everything. Well, I think that's it, fellas. I was really happy Superhero and Film Red played at my local theater, both subbed and dubbed. Never had anime at our theater, so that was awesome. Hell yeah, great feeling. Hope it was good business for them. And they do it again. Well, that'll do it, fellas. We're gonna pick this up on Tuesday. I didn't realize they filtered the chat into top chat and all messages now. Here I thought I was by myself. Yeah. I was, and then they're like, wait, who is he talking to? Where where is he reading this other chat? The other people here besides me? I didn't say anything. Very cool. Okay. I think this will do it. You guys are great. You have a great couple days. Or a good weekend. I'm out. I'm gonna be on back on Tuesday, hopefully. That's so much shit to do. Yo, peace.